welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Yeah, I am your host, Roddykat. This is going to be a swimmingly great night. I can tell already. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
With Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter and
Instagram, baby.
Yep.
What's up, everybody? We are back after a week off for Movie Protocol.
Brooklyn!
Oh, this is gonna be great, folks. 2 weeks, and this is just great, I'll tell you. Anywho, yes, folks, we are back after after Movie Protocol. So we got 2 weeks worth of books and a lot of stuff to get into. So we're just going to go ahead and get into it with and I'll do the rest of the razzmatazz later on in the show. With Moon Knight, episode 6 recap.
That's right. And this episode is titled What is this episode titled? Because I'm scrolling. Gods and Monsters. Right, and it's pretty appropriate. It's definitely apropos to the events of this series. And sadly, it is likely the series finale, not just the season, but the series finale.
You know what? We'll get into that at the end of the discussion, but I kind of wonder about that. I know that what they said about it, but like they can't let it in like this.
Well, I don't think the story of the character is finished, but we'll get into that as we discuss our spoiler-filled discussion of this episode. So you know that spoiler warning hits at the beginning of this episode, especially in the audio format. But for the people watching on video right now, be prepared. We are going to talk about episode 6 of Moon Knight in detail and the entire series as a whole, as well as spoiling lots of, related Marvel content. So be prepared. Spoilers incoming in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, actually, since you did mention it, I'll go ahead and mention this right now. Speaking of people that are going to watch the video version after the fact, as of the last episode, the chapter markers should be in place or will be in place for the shows. So you could just skip if you don't want to get spoiled. If you watch after the fact on YouTube, you can just skip to the chapter marker for what you want to listen to.
There it is.
So yeah, even though I'm adding more work for myself, I figured to go ahead and implement that. But we'll see how that works out. But yeah, Moon Knight, episode 6, Gods and Monsters, the last episode. As Agent 70 said, they're like, yeah, we get a little bit of both. We definitely get a little bit of both in this episode. So let's see. Well, so basically, it picks up after. Wait, what does this say? Oh, they got a typo on their thing. That's crazy. Anyway, we're in the tomb. Mark's dead. Layla's in there trying to avenge Mark. I
was about to say, that's not a typo, really, because remember, episode 5 was all out of body.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
So that's why they're saying that it's right. It's literally what Roddykat is referring to is, we're following a couple of sources for, to kind of keep our memories refreshed as we talk about this. And if you have not been keeping up, there's a bit of an out-of-body experience, an out-of-body story being told in episode 5. So we're basically going back to what happens at the end of episode 4, which is what we pick up on at the beginning of this episode.
Right.
And we're in Alexander the Great's burial chamber. Not Ramatut's, but Alexander the Great. And Arthur Harrow and his minions, not Banana, but his minions are surrounding Mark Spector's body, and they're grabbing Ahmet's Ushabti from his pockets, and you can take it from there.
Yeah, that happened. But he did leave. Harrow did leave Mark with the scarab, thoughtfully, I guess. After just leaving Mark's body.
You're thinking there's no further purpose for it.
Sure, because got what he was looking for, so he doesn't really need it anymore. So just kind of placed it on his chest. Which I want to say this real quick. That kind of brought the whole body thing kind of bothered me for a second, because one, Mark got shot twice. There was no blood in the water. I'm just saying. Anyway, but Harrow and his crew leaves. I don't know why I want to call her Marlene now, because that's disrespectful. Layla comes up, kind of cries over Mark for like 5 seconds, and then takes the scarab, and follows Harrow out. Weirdly enough, actually that was the weird part. We cut to Harrow and his crew leaving, and they get to a police checkpoint, where Layla has hidden out in one of the Jeeps. Harrow apparently doesn't know this, but I guess why would he care at this point? Because he's got he's got
the power.
Exactly. So he basically takes care of all of the police that are in his way, and
in a snap. Oh no, we're bringing out all the musical references already.
But he does end up converting one soul to his cause, before dispatching all of the other ones. It's during this time that Tarwet reanimates one of the policemen's bodies and tries to talk why am I doing that? Good God. Layla out of going after Harrow, and to tell her to go free Khonshu from his Ushabti. She's not listening. She was like, nope, I got this, don't worry about it. But she still kind of acts like she's going to do it on her own. She sees what happens to all these other police members, still somehow has it in her head to where she's going to get Harrow. But she, after seeing this, she kind of lays back just a little bit, but still kind of a little headstrong. They get the bodies out of the way. And I think they end up going back to the Chamber of Kings, where Harrow pretty much handily dispatches all of the other avatars that are there, and then releases Amit to the world. Hey, guess what? Big crocodile headed god. Go to figure.
I mean, we have gators in this show, and now it's in a while crocodile.
Exactly. We don't get to see Steven saying alligator or crocodile or something like that, but he does say hippo. So yeah. Harrow thinks his work is over with because he's unbalanced. But Amit's like, nope. I already had someone who was perfectly balanced, and I got locked up for it. You are the person that I need. So go forth and do your thing. I'm like, okay, clearly she has a plan here. Which I guess, if you think about it, kind of like Khonshu, she knows that Harrow is not balanced, but just like Khonshu and Mark, not necessarily makes them weak, but kind of makes them useful, easily tippable, I guess you could say. So that's the case. But anyway, I believe, like I said, Layla sees all of this because she's stowed away with the crew. Then she kind of goes off to release Khonshu from his Ushabti, which he ends up doing, and of course Khonshu, being who he is like, hey, why don't you come be my avatar? Mark's gone. I don't he's gone. I need the avatar. Why don't you do it?
He's like dead.
No. Yeah, like he's dead. He's no good to me, so I need an avatar. And she was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And then I think she dips out. and they realize that I think she talks to one of the other avatars who happens to still be around, saying like, no, we don't have enough avatars to deal with this because that's what we need. Khonshu ends up going up against Ahmet, and doesn't do quite well at first.
It's kind of wild. Well, this is the battle inside
Right.
the pyramid, right?
The Chamber of Gods, yeah.
Right. And well, yeah, but it's within the pyramid, right? Because it's supposed to be within one of the Great Pyramids. And it's interesting to see the level of power that they give Amit.
Yes.
You know, just in terms of the power balance, the power scale between Khonshu and Amit, it almost seems like it's an unfair fight. That was my perspective. I don't know how you felt about it.
No, that's about right. Yeah.
Okay.
And plus, like, she had, she's newly resident, she's got her disciples on, and like Khonshu was pretty much there by himself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she kind of had that aside, she kind of had the power tipped in her favor. So, then we cut to Mark back at the Field of Reeds with Taweret. I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm adding a syllable that doesn't need to be there. But Mark's like, nah, I got to go back for Steven because, I wouldn't be here for him. So without him, so he does, which this part was also kind of weird to me because when we saw him, he was pretty much in the middle of nowhere. But when we see him, he just so happens to be statued in the front of the doors of Anubis. Excuse me, the gates of Osiris. Like pretty much right there. I'm like, where did this even come from? But nevertheless, Bart gets back to Steven. He makes this heartfelt plea and starts turning to stone himself. But then the heart goes balanced, and they both get unfrozen and try to make it towards the gates, which are again a few feet near them after this big sand wave comes for them, and with the timely assistance of Hippo, they make it to the door and back to the world of the living. And I believe this is when Khonshu's like, "Oh wait, Mark's back." So,
pretty much.
It's like, "Oh, Mark's back, so I can get my avatar back." So, but which is kind of what happens. But then Stephen's like, "All right, wait. If we do this, you promise to release us, like you promised to do." And he reluctantly does so. But of course, it's Khonshu, so he's got a trick up his sleeves, which we find out later.
Right.
And I believe, is this where we come across? Let's see.
Yeah. So basically, as Roddykat just mentioned, Khonshu rebonds with both Steven and, with both, identities, both aspects.
Here we go.
Of Mark Spector.
Right.
And he restores their powers.
Yep. And like I said, he said he was he promises to release them. So we got Mr. Knight, we got Moon Knight, and they are in pretty much control of things. They're pretty much together on things, let's put it that way.
Right.
So then we cut back to Layla, and this is where we find out the backwards miles, and this is where we find out about the things that what they need more avatars than what they have. And I guess he died. I didn't catch up on that part after telling Layla that they don't have enough people for this. Layla calls out to Taweret, who speaks through Selim's body, and this is when we get a very excited scream from Taweret. And if you are listening to the audio version, you could probably hear the sound effect that I just did. In relation to that. Unfortunately, Agent 70 cannot. But if you watch the show, you already know what I'm talking about. That part tripped me out. I had to play it a couple of times because it was shooting. And of course, not only did she hear it, did Layla hear it, who was right there, everybody else who was in the pyramids, including Harrow's people, hear all of this and goes looking for where that know who it was, which I guess I don't know if we figured out whether that was Layla or not, but nevertheless, they knew somebody was in there. So Layla agrees to be Tara's avatar, but not before some rocks fell on her, some stones fell on her due to Harrow using his scepter to destroy the chamber. Let's see. Although it is worth noting, yes, Layla does say that temporary avatar is what she says. Not
She tries to she tries to add a caveat to this entire relationship. We don't know how successful this caveat will be, though.
Right? Yeah. We do not. And of course, Tara is like, well, I got a great costume I got for us, so you know, this and another. But we cut outside to the chamber. Oh wait, did we miss the part where Mark part flies off? I forgot about that part.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. So okay, so for folks that don't know, may or may not know, Moon Knight can glide. He has a big cape. He can glide. He cannot fly. When he left Khonshu to get back to the Chamber of Gods, he flew. He straight up flew like Superman.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
And funny about it is, you know, in this adaptation, we have to strongly stress that word. It's an adaptation.
Correct.
Right? Similar to the people that complain about Winning Time on HBO being factually inaccurate, that is a dramatization of real life events. This is, in turn, an adaptation of comic book canon and comic book stories. So Moon Knight in the comics, as far as we know, does not have healing armor.
That is correct. Right?
So he doesn't technically have any superpowers, but in this incarnation of Moon Knight, he kind of does. And so one of those being apparently flight.
I was about to say, now that I think about it, not yet, because we know how they've been doing MCU to comic book.
Exactly, for synergy, for synergy, and for and to create a connectivity between the MCU and the 616. We'll talk about the whole 616 thing too later.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, we'll talk about that when we get to Doctor Strange. But you know, in the meantime, Mark does in fact fly off, and let's see, where are we now?
So Layla, so we cut back to Layla's pretty much Amit's swallowing up souls left and right, and growing in size. Layla gets from under the rubble in her new suit, in her new costume. She with wings and a couple of swords, which actually was a nice looking costume. So I guess while she was not given the name, I guess she is now the Scarlet Scarab.
Right. And you know what's funny? I heard in post having watched this and having listened to a couple of podcasts, I heard comments to the tune of this was the Wonder Woman 1984 costume that should have been.
I have also seen that. So
I was like, wow.
I was like, that's not cool. That's not, I mean, it's a good costume in its own right, but it's like, I don't know. That was kind of funny though. So yeah, so it's nighttime. Like I said, Amit swallowing up souls left and right and growing in power. She's pretty much kaiju sized. Khonshu, I believe, also at this point. Oh wait, yeah. Yes. Khonshu comes, fights off Kaiju Amit, and at the same time, Mark gets there in Moon Knight gear and fights Hyro, which that doesn't seem like a fair fight, but I guess it worked out. They're fighting in the streets. They're both having a time with their respective fights, you know, as one would imagine. Harrow, I guess at certain times, well, actually, no, he was kind of handling himself more handily than you think he would have before that we've seen before now, you know.
Right.
But Moon Knight and Harrow get into, basically somehow manage to make the fight into the city, and they keep fighting. Layla shows up, and Mark and Steven are like, hey, here's a new suit, great, and this is where we get the pretty much kick-ass fights, the rest of the kick-ass fight scene, with including Steven in the Mr. Knight garb, now showing some battle skills, which was cool to see. And we see between Mark and Steven kind of going in between each other in their fight with Harrow, which was a good fight. I kind of enjoyed it. There was no Haraway fight, but it was pretty good. It got to a point though where Harrow ended up taking an upper hand. Well, Mark was in charge, and then Mark blacked out and woke up once again. Everybody, including Harrow, was pretty much taken care of. I believe there was one scene in there where Layla saves a busload of people, and this kid asked her if she was the Egyptian superhero. She says yes, but like I said, it ended up going to where I just said, where Mark blacked out. Somebody took over. It wasn't Mark or Steven. We know who it is at this point, right? But they still don't know. So then I think they had the idea from Layla. It was like, well, in order to defeat Ahmet, got to put her in a body. So they took Harrow back to the. I guess they took her back to the chamber of the chamber. The
Chamber of Gods?
Yeah, I think that's where they took him back to, and ended up doing a ritual, and Ahmet ends up getting in Harrow's body, and the fight is over with. Ooh, excuse me. And after this, Khonshu's trying to get Mark to kill Harrow, to which later kind of talks him down off of it, because because Khonshu's trying to assert some control, but it doesn't happen. So Khonshu begrudgingly releases Mark and Steven after this, and they end up back in the mental hospital with Dr. Harrow, whose feet are bleeding, and he also gets dealt with after some back and forth between the three characters.
Right. That threw me a little bit, because, and it's obviously meant to throw off the viewer, because you were basically in the the current reality of the show, and all of a sudden you're transported back to the mental hospital. Mm-hmm. And which we understand to be within Mark Spector's mind.
Right.
So it was all very much surreal, and obviously it's meant to kind of jar the viewer and just kind of give them a taste of a little confusion at this point. So it kind of threw me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it did a little bit, because I was like, wait, what are we doing back here? I was like, oh wait, is this where we're going to get the reveal of who was in that other sarcophagus? No, not really.
No.
It was Mark and Steven, dealing with the remnants of Harrow's mind, I guess, or Harrow in his mind, or whatever the case may be. And then they wake up in Steven's apartment with that music from the beginning, from the first episode, and of course also try to get out of bed and fall over just like they did in the first couple episodes. Or
yeah, I think it's Engelbert Humperdinck, I think.
Yes, it is.
Which is wild. I actually had to look that up. I was like, I've heard this song before. I had to Google it.
Yeah, I know the name. I don't think I've ever heard this song either. So, and Mark makes a comment about Steven's messy apartment before this happens, and then the episode ends.
Or does it?
Dun dun dun. We get roll credits, and then we get to the point too. There it is, and then we get some credits roll until a certain point, and we get a mid-credit scene. This mid-credit scene is at apparently Sienkiewicz Psychiatric Hospital.
Sienkiewicz.
Yes. But
Sienkiewicz. The only reason, listen, I had mispronounced his name. This is Bill Sienkiewicz, the artist, the longtime artist, and he had a pretty good run on Moon Knight, where obviously a lot of these stories are lifted from. Obviously, we know that the Lemire run proved to be the the prime comic book run that this story was adapted from, but the Sienkiewicz stuff obviously had a role, and his Twitter handle is where he puts up a phonetic pronunciation of his name. So that is why.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah.
That is why I am comfortable when I see his name pronouncing it. It is Sienkiewicz.
Right.
And I definitely chuckled when I saw his name up on the name of the billboard or the signage of the psychiatric hospital.
Right. So in this end credit scene, or mid credit scene, I guess you could say, at the hospital, it's Harrow who's sedated and kind of like we saw Mark in the early episode. He knocks over a cup of sand or a cup of coffee. I thought it was a cup of, somebody said it was a cup of sand. I was like, it was a cup of coffee though. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Somebody with an accent comes and wheels him out. We never get to see the person's face, at least until the end of this, I'm believing. He gets wheeled out into a stretch limo, which is the same stretch limo from the Lemire Smallwood run that Mr. Knight was rolling around in. And in the back of this limo, we see Khonshu. Actually, excuse me, Harrow gets kind of tossed in the thing, and the wheelchair gets kind of kicked around, which was kind of funny. I mean, not
right.
Well, you know, but the scene itself was kind of funny, I should say, not the action. But like I said, in the back of the limo, Khonshu's talking to Harrow, and Harrow's like, "You can't touch me. You can't do anything about to me." And then and Khonshu's like, "Oh, really?" And then the window in the front rolls down, and we see one Jake Lockley with a gun and gives Harrow a two-piece after speaking Spanish.
What's funny is that when we say Jake Lockley, ladies and gentlemen listening to our show and viewing our show, if you don't know who that is, it is also Mark Spector, but it's another aspect of his dissociative identity disorder.
Right. And we've seen technically
we've had
seen
suspicions,
him.
right? We definitely have had, suspicious moments during the show. That's what Roddykat is alluding to.
Basically,
where
yes.
it's definitely hinted at that Jake Lockley is taking over. And, again, this is an adaptation. So our understanding of the different aspects of Mark Spector's dissociative IDs don't necessarily translate the same way in this adaptation on Disney Plus, where Stephen Grant, here is like a, kind of a wimpy dude, kind of a book smart guy, and Mark Spector is a mercenary, and Jake Lockley apparently is a psychopathic killer who speaks Spanish.
Right. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, exactly. When in the comics, Jake Lockley was the cab driver. He was the one that was kind of, he had informants in the hood and whatnot. It's like he was kind of running around. He was basically Matches Malone, like he was for Bruce Wayne.
Exactly.
If you know who that is.
Exactly. So it's definitely a twist on what we understand from the comics. So, so now that we're done, we can kind of touch on what Roddykat and I were talking about when we were discussing whether or not this is a series finale or simply a season finale. I have read that it is being described as a series finale, but that does not mean we're not going to get any more Moon Knight.
Right.
I suspect that we're going to get Moon Knight in either another Disney Plus show or guest starring in a movie. My gut says it's going to be on another Disney Plus show.
I would agree with that, but I feel like they clearly could make another season of it. Like Agent 7 said, yeah, they kind of build it as a one and done, and I don't know. Stranger things have happened. Let's put it this way: people didn't think Loki would get us the season 2, but yet it is.
Right. Although they announced the Loki season 2 relatively quickly.
Right. But what I'm saying, but going into it, even coming out of it until they announced it, like no one really thought the fact that would have warranted a season 2. But like I said, that's the case. This one, they were not even saying anything about that. So it was like, okay, if we get one, is what it is. But it don't. But they've been pretty much saying, like Agent 7 said, it was like, yeah, this seems like getting the character show us were, but might not. Which is kind of a problem with me because I'm sitting here like, so they're going to address that whole Jake Lockley thing in other
in another story
projects. Yeah.
Listen, I'm still kind of processing how I feel about this show.
Right.
Because I've talked to some people, talked to some friends who were unhappy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they obviously complained about some of the writing, and obviously they complained about some of the same things that we did, like that whole bit about Khonshu and Mark not knowing how to present a halfway decent argument to the other avatars of the Egyptian gods when they're trying to argue against letting Harrow continue his evil deeds. And we're all like, what the hell was that? Right. So, but I kind of struggle with how I feel about this show. You know, it's kind of like we, as Marvel Comics fans, especially those of us who are somewhat familiar with the source material, I think we're kind of forgiving, and we kind of have a little bit more context when it comes to how we look at these shows. Whereas I think maybe people who are unfamiliar with this show's source material maybe are looking at it with more of a critical eye than maybe we are.
Right.
I can't say if that's for sure. Obviously, you know, you have to look at it on a case by case basis. Everyone has a different opinion and carries a different set of history and circumstances into their viewings of these things. But I feel like, at least from my perspective, I'm still sort of on the fence with this, much like I am with a lot of the Moon Knight stuff that I read. I'm like, okay, it's not exactly take it or leave it. It's more like, oh, okay. I'm not as affected by this as I am some of the other projects.
Right.
Maybe there wasn't as much of a personal attachment to it. You know?
Hey, I was just happy we got to see him on the screen. This is one of those characters that's like, who would have thought this character would have had anything live action at all? Like, granted, some would say he's a close proximity to Batman, so it would probably be a little easier to do in that respect, but no, not really.
I mean, there are characters that have received pushes over, say, like the last 25, 30 years. And we've seen Moon Knight carry his own book, for, several issues. We're not talking like a 6-issue run here. We're talking about like 10, 12, 20 issues here and there over the last few decades, let's say.
Right.
And, it's not a character that does not have like stories to draw from.
Right.
So it's not a giant surprise, but at the same time, yeah, this is like, we're getting into like, we're not talking about like C and D level characters. We're definitely going down into those areas.
Right. I mean, and there's there are folks saying it was like, well, they could do Midnight Suns now because XYZ is starting to come together, which it could. Well, I wouldn't be mad at it. We need a proper Ghost Rider, I guess, to either come back or come into.
What's funny? You know what's funny about that? It's funny that you mentioned that, and obviously we're going to move on to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in a moment. But I realized I had not watched any whatchamacallit? What is that YouTube thing where they do the trailer, the honest trailers?
Yeah.
Right. I had not watched any honest trailers in several months, and it turns out they did one for the two Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies.
Yes, they did.
And I watched it the other day, and this is what happens when we're in between. When we have movie protocol, folks, and we don't record, we actually find ourselves with a little extra time to kind of muck around on the internet and watch other shows to boot. And I remember watching this thinking, oh my gosh, I really have not watched these ever at all.
Yeah. I have famously said, I think I watched the first one for like 20 minutes and turned it off.
Oh my gosh.
And the second
The
one,
Nick Cage of it all.
yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, as a matter of fact, that 20 minutes was pretty much when he turned into Ghost Rider for the first time. And I'm like,
Wow.
nope.
Wow. I mean, we've gotten Robbie Reyes on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
We did,
right?
yes. Mhm.
And speaking of, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, there is a chance that could be acknowledged sooner rather than later.
Perhaps.
That incarnation of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps.
So maybe with that, we can turn our attention to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And again, folks, if you've gotten to this point in the show, we are still going to be heavy in spoilers, but not as heavy as we could be because it is a movie. It's not the same as the Disney Plus show. We're not going to dive that hard into the spoilers. Roddykat just watched this movie. I watched it last week.
Mm-hmm.
So my memory's a
the day
little
of this thing.
right. My memory's a little less sharp when it comes to that, but I'm going to ring the spoiler bell because we're going to touch on spoilers. We may not be like super heavy in them, but just in case we're ringing the bell, you are forewarned in 3, 2, 1. Spoilers are inbound.
I kind of just want to skip ahead and then come back to how you feel about it before we get to it. But I guess we should go ahead and give it a little bit. So yeah, like I said, I watched it today, and as I just told Agent 70, and I don't know if this is going to impress upon a whole lot of people, but this was a Sam Raimi ass movie.
Yes.
Yes. Like he wants to do another Evil Dead movie so hard. You can tell that.
Either that or in this genre, right? In the superhero genre, he feels the freedom to add that in as an element.
I mean, I feel like they did kind of tell him not necessarily go nuts, but yeah, do your thing. Well, because there have been times that has worked for certain Marvel projects. I mean, look at the Thor stuff. It's been working swimmingly there.
Right.
So that being the case, as Agent 70 and I was also talking, you might not want to take your little kids, the little kids, to this one.
This is, this is interestingly enough, I did see some articles on this, where some people were wondering how they rated this movie a PG-13 as a kind of it's a heavy, hard PG-13 because it definitely leans right up against that line going into an R rating.
Right, because there's not a whole lot of blood. Like, yeah, there is definitely a lot of imagery there, but there's not a whole lot of just blatant blood and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure that would have tipped it over to an R really easily.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's probably what the crew that I was with when we went to the movies essentially said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were all kind of remarking on that, like, wow, that was actually really borderline R.
Right. Yeah, from almost the beginning, because like there was the whole and there's some of this that has been on TV spots. Like you see the America Chavez running through the city after being chased after by I'm going to call him Shumagurath, even though that's not what his name is in the movie. I recognize that, but still, I'm calling that
for licensing issues.
Yes, exactly. But regardless, and of course the scene with the butts gets split in half and this and that and other, and the way that creature gets dealt with, I was like, wow, that's
it's kind of on the gory side.
Yeah, that's a little hard.
Kind of on the gory side. I mean, we're not going to hit all the
no
points,
but I'm just.
But yeah. I wanted to mention a couple things.
Okay.
That are relatively plot related. So they do make mention of several artifacts in this movie that have proven to be very important in the Marvel comic book universe.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we saw the Wand of Watum in the first movie, or we heard about it. I think
it was shown. Yes, yeah.
Oh no, it was shown because I think didn't they show it and they let Mordo use it for like a brief second or something?
Yes.
Right. So in this, obviously, we've talked about this without the biggest condition that you have to follow going into this movie, which is to have watched WandaVision all the way through. That is the biggest condition that you have to. You don't have to watch What If. I thought you did, and I
Yeah, so did I.
when I went in thinking that I needed to, I was like, oh man, I never made time to watch What If.
Right.
You know, I was kind of worried.
Well,
And then when I when I got through the movie, I was like, well, I didn't need to do that. It's a good thing I watched WandaVision all the way through.
right. I mean, it's true. You do not have to watch What If. However, there is a character from What If, technically from What If, that shows up. I mean, you know, kind of shows up.
Right, kind of.
Yeah.
But getting back to what I was mentioning earlier about the artifacts, the Book of Vishanti plays a minor role in this. And when I say minor, I'm very surprised. I'm kind of like off put by the fact that I'm a comic book head, and I'm like, yo, what you know, how are these books so fragile?
Right. Well, I mean, they're old ass books, but
Right. And obviously the Darkhold is involved. That's what I meant to say, because I meant to add the Darkhold is an artifact that was revealed in the bulk of WandaVision, and now we've got it here playing a role in this movie,
a big role.
fairly large role in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, obviously these are magical tomes, you know, and they should be protected by spells. And I'm just like, is it that easy to wipe these things out? That's all. That's all I'm saying.
So I would agree with that also, but I also thought about the fact that when they brought up in the movie that the one copy of the Darkhold got burned up was a copy. I was like, okay, that kind of opens up the door to be like, well, maybe there's another copy, or I mean, granted, they may have technically, they could have, with the way that the rest of the movie went, they could have also taken care of that. But also, we got multiverses involved, and we have found out that there are multiple copies in other multiverses implied anyway. So regardless, that doesn't rule that book anything coming back out. It is also Marvel, where you know you can kind of gin up some kind of way. The thing that kind of struck me that if you know enough about Doctor Strange, the Vishanti is a big thing that he calls upon a lot.
Right.
So, and I was sitting here as there was like, so then the part of the plot of the movie was they're trying to find the book of the Vishanti, and I keep saying, almost was about to say Ashanti, because I think Francisco Francavilla or somebody out there did art with the book of the Ashanti on it, and I was like, okay, that's great.
That's right. I did see that. That was funny.
Yeah, but like I said, they were looking for the book of Vishanti, which I'm sitting here like, part of me was like, wait, shouldn't he already know that? I mean, granted, he's not Sorcerer Supreme. That they've made that point a couple of times in the course of this movie, but I'm sitting there like, you would think, and this is me going off the comic part of it, and not necessarily the MCU part of it. So I made my part. I made my do with that early on, but it was still like, he should know this already. What is
Yeah, that was tough. You know, because it feels like the Book of Ashanti should be something that he can more easily access.
Right.
And you know, that was a big thing.
I was gonna ask you. This is a question I was gonna ask you. Did it seem like they were tying America Chavez's powers to the Book of Vishanti?
No.
It feels like that to me. They're clearly like, so if you know about America Chavez, she's a multiversal teleporter. Not sure her powers are not necessarily based on magic, but that's never really been established as well. I guess it kind of has, but kind of hasn't been established of how her powers are kind of manifest themselves, whether it be magic, because that's not technological or whatever the case may be. But regardless, it seemed like they were kind of leaning toward tying her powers to the Vishanti. And that's probably an implication that I made out of it, not necessarily the case of it being true. But I was kind of going through the movie, it's like, it's kind of seems like they're going that way with that now. As we know in the MCU, things have come off of other things. Like Captain Marvel's most of the stuff have come off of either the Infinity Stone, so they didn't do that, or as they have introduced in Doctor Strange, magic. So at this point, it could have gone one way or the other, but they pretty much introduced the one wild card here.
Right. It was like a soft introduction to the character because we get an idea of what her powers are and where she comes from, but we don't know how she has her powers or the extent of her powers. Right.
Just like now in the comics.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably a wise choice because it gives the character more room to grow in another project, most likely a Young Avengers project.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
So at least in that regard, I felt like they did her character well. They kept her to the sidelines for the most part as a secondary character to the story.
Yeah. Again, as we've said, there's adaptation, and this adaptation was not bad. There was not enough stomping of portals for me.
I gotcha.
Because in the comics,
control it at the beginning, so it's
right in the comics. Most times you see America Chavez just stomping out a portal. Like we did see pretty much her do a kick into a portal, but they've pretty much and she's like super strong and she can fly. Although they probably changed that I think they changed that in the comics now to be more in line to what they were doing here. Now that I'm thinking about it from the last couple times we've seen her, but regardless, the adaptation wasn't terrible. So.
Gotcha. So how did you feel about? We're kind of glossing over the plot because it is, we don't want to necessarily spoil all the twists and turns. But how did you feel about Wanda and her motivation and her characterization? Because this is where I kind of struggled with it a little bit. Yeah. And after listening to several podcasts in the wake of having watched it, I feel myself siding on that line, siding with that side of the criticism, because even though I understand from the comic book perspective that Wanda has a want, right? She wants some form of stable family, especially in this allegedly 616, right? We'll get to that too.
Yes.
Right. We will get to that too. Allegedly, Quicksilver has been dead for a while now, right? Wanda is mostly alone, even though for whatever reason, like her Avengers teammates don't go and check on her. Maybe all the ones who cared are all dead. We don't know. Right? Other than Hawkeye. Like, what's up with Hawkeye? Right. He's too busy raising his family. What's up with that?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, that's probably the case. He was like, I don't know.
And obviously Vision doesn't appear in this movie. That's another kind of weird thing. They're probably saving that for something else. Although I thought they would have saved it for this.
Exactly. See, and that's the kind of thing which I was kind of leaning towards before the show. It was like they bring up so many, well, not so many, that's a little overstated, but they bring up a couple of things, or at the very least hint around a couple of things that's like, okay, are they going to pick this up somewhere? Or are they going to drop it here? And where on Earth are they going to do this if they did this stuff? Like, there's been so much stuff there's been a couple of things from WandaVision, I should say, including the Vision stuff. It's like, or where exactly are they going to bring that back up, if not here? And some of the things that they brought up here, like, okay, so is this going to be it? Or are we going to see this somewhere else, and where and why? Starts to be the question on a couple of things.
Right.
Like they set up a Secret Wars, and that could be a thing that, like we got Ant-Man coming up. They could extend that into that some kind of way and make that into more of that. But it's like they bring up out spoiler alerts. They bring up, well, if you haven't read the comic, you don't know whether it's a spoiler or not. But they basically bring up Secret Wars, the Hickman Secret Wars, with the incursions. And I'm sitting here like, okay, wait, so what are they going to do with this? Are they going to do anything more than this? Or are they just going to leave it here?
I have a feeling that this is akin to Nick Fury saying the words, Avengers Initiative.
Right.
That's what I feel this is. That this is the first time we're hearing the word incursions. And much like the way the incursions were developed in the comic books, where I think it was in Bendis's run they talked about in the New Avengers.
Wait, were there?
Yeah, I want to say, or was it all Hickman's New Avengers?
I want to say it's all Hickman, but I say that being the fact that I'm a little fuzzy on Bendis's run on the Avengers at this point. So.
Right, I want to say they mentioned incursions early on, and it took them like 2 years to get to develop the Secret Wars.
I had assumed that was all Bendis. I mean, all Hickman. Excuse me. So, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure at this point. And
I mean, I'll start looking it up because I'm just kind of curious now, because I feel like it was on that it started under the watch of Bendis, but not the concept of the incursions. But I think they mentioned it.
Sure. I mean, you could be. Like I said, I'm a little fuzzy on Bendis's run on the Avengers, so I don't know. But that being said, I did enjoy the fact that there's some other things that got brought up, and again, like Wundagore got brought up,
right?
And I'm sitting here like, wait, are they going to do something with this? Are we going to see Bova, High Evolutionary, any of that kind of stuff? Probably not. I mean, unless they do another season of WandaVision, maybe they'll do something there, maybe not. But I at this point, I kind of doubt it.
Well, based on how the movie ends, there may be a chance at that.
I mean, there is, yes, because we don't know what happens to Wanda at the end of that.
Right.
Presumably, we get a potential. But
oh no, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. It is Hickman that introduces it in his run of New Avengers.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah. But I could have been
only because that stuff starts to blend together after a while.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been something that Hickman was like, oh yeah, Bendis did start, and then he just picked it up and ran with it. So I could have been, slightly off on that one myself. So
no, the incursion stuff definitely started with Hickman. It was the Illuminati stuff that started with Bendis.
Yes, and that's another thing that gets brought up here.
All right, talk about a natural transition there, folks.
Yeah, that was beautiful. So yeah, I mean, but if you've seen, well, again, you would have to know about who the Illuminati are and the fact, a fact that a couple of folks show up here. It is not the lineup that you would know from the comics, but then again, this is the MCU version. Doesn't matter because they pretty much got wiped out. Spoilers.
Yeah, you know what? Hold that thought. That thought. I just wanted to take a look at the upcoming MCU release schedule and see where they might start, because this is something that came up in some of the podcasts that I listened to and some of the discussion that I had with my crew that went to go see the movie last Thursday night. Okay. Well, it's really my friend's crew, but I am an honored member because I'm like the hardcore comic book head, right?
Sure.
And so I bring the reference to everybody for comparison and for the discussion. So Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out soon, right? July 8th. That is soon. That is like a month and change. Right. Wakanda Forever comes out in November of this year. And Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania comes out in February. So if you think about it, it's not that far away. It just feels far away for us. But when it comes to when these things are going to be released,
right? But on that though, think about all of those movies. Now, granted, as we know from Marvel movies, there are subplots and other stuff that they kind of mix in. So even with what we know about all of those movies, and granted, probably the least of those we know about is the Black Panther movie,
right?
But based on what we know right now, I can't see not much that I can think of coming out of Doctor Strange, even though Doctor Strange seemed like the one that was like, okay, this is going to blow up a whole lot of stuff. That's what it was. It felt like it was going into it. And technically it could still, I mean, it opens up the door for some wider for some things, but like I can't
Right.
really see much in Thor: Love and Thunder that's going to come out of
No,
this.
but I was going to say Thor. I think is the prime candidate. I think
think?
Thor is the prime candidate because they've already crossed over. The two sets of characters have already crossed over.
True, but I'm thinking
That's why I think that is the prime candidate because coming up is Ms. Marvel, right, on the Disney Plus side, right? Now that Moon Knight is wrapped, so we have Ms. Marvel, and then we have She-Hulk possibly coming out later on this year.
is that this year or that's next year?
Has it been already confirmed for next year?
And I'm not sure. They definitely said it was going to be after Miss Marvel. So
So we don't know yet,
yeah,
right? But we're hoping for late this year,
right,
because Ms. Marvel is actually coming out soon too.
right,
Ms. Marvel's coming out June 8th. That
Right.
is less than a month away,
right.
right? So we have a brief respite between now and the next Disney Plus show. But getting back to what we were saying is that, how they decide to tie all this stuff together. I feel like Thor is a prime candidate to have some element of Doctor Strange coming in and being mentioned. That's what I think.
I mean, mentioned yes, but I would argue that Ant-Man would be the bigger.
Well, yeah, because of the concept of the multiverse, but
Right.
that being, 2 movies away, it's a little tougher.
But
To,
let me see.
Right. No, listen, we're both thinking on the same wavelength. It's
Yeah,
a more
yeah.
matter of where we think it's going to happen next.
Right.
And I feel like they're going to bring some of it up in Thor.
Right. I mean,
It
they're
just seems natural because they're, gods, space gods, aliens, however it is that they're looking to translate the Norse mythology into the MCU. So
right.
I just have this, I have this feeling that, we're going to get some sort of reference to it. And who knows, it might be part of how Ms. Marvel gets her powers. The whole multiversal part 2,
Maybe.
We don't know. But
yeah, we don't know.
Right, but getting back to now, I'm going to circle all the way back to what Roddykat was talking about with the Illuminati.
Yes. And actually, speaking of Miss Marvel, on that note, because I did not expect to see this character, this person, 2, back in the suit. In this movie. So
Are we talking about Lashana Lynch?
no. I'm talking about Black Bolt.
Yes, I told you it might happen. Didn't I tell you?
You may have mentioned something to that effect.
Did I not tell you that this was one of the things I hoped for? And I was just like, no way, is that him? And my buddy Malcolm was sitting next to me. He's like, that's him. And I said, no, let's wait for the credits just to confirm. When I saw the credits, I was like, oh my God, they brought Anson Mount back. Holy cow. Obviously, they sent him out on a terrible note. No pun intended.
Boom.
Right. Seriously. Hold on. Let me get that in.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, that was awesome.
It was great. But at the same time, multiverse. So
right. No, listen. None of the so bottom line is they bring in a whole bunch of cameo appearances for these characters that we do not expect and surprisingly were kept under wraps.
Right.
Like, were you not shocked? Were you not shocked that they actually seemed like they were trolling us, that they put John Krasinski into the Fantastic Four costume as Reed Richards?
They very much were, because there was speculations and rumors and this and that and other, and like you said, trolling. It's like I was actually truly shocked when I saw it. I was like, oh shit, they did it.
Yeah, for real. No, listen, opening night, like I don't know how you avoided it. Opening night, you should have heard the gasps.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My theater wasn't even like completely full. We were like, let's say like 80% full, maybe like a little higher than that, but not 90 or close to 100.
Right.
It's opening night. It's a smaller theater. We're not like in an IMAX showing, right? And we're not in the moving chair showing, right? I forget what that's called.
D-Box.
Yeah, something like that. RDX or something like that. Yeah. Something like that. And but the gasps, the audible gasp when you see him on the screen, because everyone knows that Patrick Stewart's going to be there. And the best part about that is He comes out in the yellow chair.
Yeah.
Everyone associates that with the animated series.
And they played the music.
Yes, that's what I think that the creator, the writer of the movie, I think has come out and said that's probably the universe that they pulled him from.
Yeah, I mean, it would. Hey, of course, yeah, that makes sense.
and what's funny is, like I heard the music, I'm like, that can't be the music. You got to be kidding me. That
very
can't
much
be the
I know
music.
that
And
music
was.
quite well. Yes, I saw him coming out of the chair. I was like, oh shit, they pulled X-Men '97, and the music popped in, and I was like, oh yes, I loved it.
And you're not singing the Whitney Houston song,
Not
whatever
this
you
time.
want from me.
Not this
Right.
time.
And but then they pull, they bring out Lashana Lynch, standing in, like as her universe as Captain Marvel, or that particular universe as Captain Marvel.
Yeah, Maria Rambeau. Mm-hmm.
And they have Anson Mount as Black Bolt in the full regalia,
Mm-hmm.
the full regalia with the tuning fork on his head. Right, and they even make a joke about it.
Yes, they did.
And they have John Krasinski in the Reed Richards, a version of the FF costume. And I was
the most recent one, actually.
And I honestly was just looking up at the screen like, I can't believe what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Haley
Haley Atwell as Captain Carter.
Yes. Which I was like, all right, I was glad to see her, even though, man, I saw that coming. There was two things I saw coming from when they I was like, okay, I know how this person's gonna get it. I know how this person's gonna get it, and I know how this person's gonna get it. And sure enough, that's what happened.
The worst part is that, they were all they all underestimated Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm like, wait, there's no Wanda in your universe? Like, you don't know how powerful this lady is?
Right. And I believe you
don't talk about, you don't spoil your plan with Black Bolt. What are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? Don't say a thing. She's never met this character before.
Yeah. But she kind of popped that.
It was a Matrix. It was straight out of the Matrix. We were just like, oh, like everyone. I think everyone in the movie theater that I was with put their hands over their mouth and did the same thing, like, oh,
and popped them like a bubble. That was like,
oh
man.
My gosh.
Yeah. But
disrespectful. I mean, listen, I'm a Black Bolt stan. Like I'm a big fan of the character. And I'm a big fan of the it's an Eisner Award winning run. Remember, I talked about it like every week that it was out, every month that it was out. I mentioned that Black Bolt series that Saladin Ahmed did with Christian Ward, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was. Yeah.
And I love that series. That was such a good series.
Yeah, from
and
what
I wish that it would. Right. No, what I was gonna say is I hope that this reappearance and reintegration of Black Bolt into the MCU leaves the door open.
So that brings me to this real quick. Sorry.
Go ahead. That's it.
So that brings
leaves the door open. Like Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak said, just leave the door open.
Nice. So, and I thought about that going back to the Miss Marvel thing, because we know Marvel has been, ever since they bought Fox, they've been sweeping Inhumans under the rug. Let's face it, that the whole Inhumans thing didn't pan out. Even in the comics side, the X-Men are back and mutants are back and all that kind of good in a big way. Seeing Black Bolt, it's like, okay, so Inhumans, now we know Inhumans are around. This is also one of those things I'm sitting here like, okay, are they going to bring this back up again? And in what way? Like, is it going to be in relation to Miss Marvel, like in the comic books, or is it going to be a thing that they just drop here and then humans are just like, well, here you go, you got Black Bolt here, and you'll never see any of the other ones or him again.
Right. We don't know. There's just no way to know. There is no way to know unless they announce like an Inhumans project, which they won't, because they know that it's like radioactive. At
this point, yeah.
Because here's the thing: we have the internet, right? And there's just so much on the internet about how bad Inhumans was, is that they can't bring back a solo Inhumans project. They're going to just integrate these characters where they can, you know?
Assuming they even attempt to do that.
Right. I was just happy to see Black Bolt in the full regalia. I was like,
True.
I can't believe this. I just want Lockjaw. Can you put Lockjaw in the Miss Marvel show? Because that's where that's where he belongs.
I mean,
he's
really.
a good boy. He's a very good boy.
Exactly.
And you know, whether or not they keep the Inhuman aspect of her power, but still have this kind of revision of her powers so that it's, you know, energy based as opposed to stretchy based.
Right. She's basically Quasar.
Yeah, like, we don't know if she's Quasar though.
Well, I mean, we don't, but at the same time,
we don't know if she's wielding like quantum bands or if that's like an internal power. We just don't know.
No, we don't. But it seems to be leaning that way with what we have seen so far, but we do not know. So we're still on a wait and see pattern.
I'm going to choose to just, you know, wait and not speculate on that one.
Yeah.
I did read that Sana Amanat, you know, was a consulting producer on this, and also spoke to G. Willow Wilson on this about how they had to adapt the powers, you know, and revise her and revise her powers. I'm talking about Kamala Khan's powers for the MCU. And you know, they listen, if those creators, if the creators who were right at the forefront at the inception of this character at Jump Street, if they're okay with it, we should be too.
I agree with that, and I trust both of them, and I agree with that. But I'm also thinking Larry Hama signed up on that Snake Eyes movie. Different thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, that's just because the creators, the co-creators kind of signed off on the thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the decisions were great decisions. Again, I trust them, so I'm not saying that they would make a bad decision, and the characters, that baby, and as you know, I would trust whatever they signed off on is probably good, and I will be fine with it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Still,
yeah, so
you know,
right, but just getting back to what we were talking about with the Illuminati, right? Unfortunately, they do all get murked. They get whacked.
Yeah.
There's, you know, whatever slang term that you have for sleeping with the fishes. That's essentially what happens to the Illuminati. And you know, Wanda, you know, not even at her peak, because she's not even like fully powered by the Darkhold at this point, is just totally whacking them, like waxing the floor with them.
I would like to make a point, and I was thinking about this earlier as I was driving home from the theater. This is the second time Charles Xavier has been killed by an entity-possessed redhead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. The same Charles, well, technically the quote-unquote same Charles Xavier.
Right.
I'm sitting here like, damn, man. Redheads just got it out for him.
I was about to say, anyway. I read somewhere that Patrick Stewart is open to doing more Professor X. I'm like, does he have bills that he needs to pay?
That man
he must. He's just busy working because he's got Picard. I actually finished the second season of Picard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got to finish that last.
You haven't finished it?
Not the last episode. I needed to...
I actually finished it. I was wondering if you were... So we could talk about that next week if you want.
I think I got spoiled on something there. And speaking of getting spoiled on something, I got spoiled in here because we did actually start pushing along because, you know, time constraints. But I think I got spoiled on something on Picard in that last episode, which I kind of figured, given what we know what this next season is going to be, who's going to show up on the next season, so that makes sense. Anyway,
Gotcha. No, I get that.
Yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about. But back to Doctor Strange, though. I guess we'll probably get into something else. But what do you think about the film? What are you still? I mean, you've had more time to process it than I have.
Right. And I might be able to help you out with your lines of thinking. It was kind of weird. Well, let me tell you some of the good things that I thought. One, I really like the fact that they gave Christine Palmer, aka Rachel McAdams, more to do.
Yeah.
In this movie, they made her an active participant.
Yeah, and look good with the red hair too.
Yeah, not exactly in the same role,
Yeah.
that she was in, but it was nice to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, Wanda just being out of control. Listen, if you read Disassembled, if you read, leading up to whatchamacallit, No More Mutants and House of M,
Mm-hmm.
right? Wanda, unfortunately, is a character that has gotten, a little bit of abuse in terms of how they've treated her, and I felt like they kind of abused the character in this. I didn't necessarily like her motivation, like she, kind of getting at what I was saying before about how there's no one looking out for her. Like she
Right.
has no friends, it's just her, and she's like alone with her thoughts, and being alone with your thoughts for that long, you
Right.
know, it's kind of tough to figure out the timeline here, but between the end of Endgame and WandaVision is supposed to be only like less than a year. It's like half a year.
Mm-hmm.
And between the end of WandaVision and now is supposed to be several years.
At least a couple, yeah.
Right, at least a couple. So she's been alone with her thoughts for that long.
Right. Yeah, I guess we don't know the direct time frame, but we know it's been a good minute since the end of WandaVision. Yeah, I feel like I love the character. I love Wanda. I've always loved Scarlet Witch as a character, and I agree with the fact that they've kind of done her dirty in the comics, even before all of that. Realistically, even with her origin story, her Quicksilver's origin story changing every 5 minutes.
Right.
But that being said, like I was actually sitting there thinking in the middle of this film, it's like, so could they not have gone another way with this than to make Wanda? Because, not granted, WandaVision kind of set this up, and coming off of the comics, we figured something like this would have happened. I still feel like there was kind of a stretch, like even in the beginning of this, when Steven goes to her in the beginning, which you see in the trailer, and then all of a sudden it just pops off as like, nope, I want, I want, this and that and the other, and I'm trying to get my kids and this and that and the other. I was like, okay, as a motivation, yes, I see it, but at the same time, it's like, really? I don't know. It felt in line, but also a stretch at the same time. Like I said, this seems like something they've been kind of, because even coming off of WandaVision, it's like, okay, at the end of WandaVision, she was pretty much seemingly making headway into some sort of recovery. Like
until the post credits.
Until the post credits, exactly. Which you could have read that a couple of different ways coming into this, still.
Mm-hmm.
But they did go with this, and granted, this was also from a story from the early on in the beginning of the Avengers, not the beginning of the Avengers, but of her time in the Avengers. So that's the whole Wonder Girl stuff and Tristan and that stuff. Was like, okay, that was all in there. So they all tied it up pretty nicely and decently together, even though, like I said, again, is it just for this, or is this what we're getting? That being said, like I said, I don't know. Her motivations aside, like I was like, yeah, that was it felt like kind of a stretch, but I felt like there was kind of building up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we still don't feel like we got part of the payoff that, again, like they set some stuff up, but we don't know when it's going to pay off. Like the kids, for instance, like we figured that, well, okay, maybe there was going to be something different coming out of this, and then, hey, the multiverse opens up and the kids are actually, she gets somewhat happy, and then she gets the kids, and the whole Young Avengers thing gets set up kind of properly. We didn't get that, and I'm not sure where we're going to get that.
Like at least an element of the long game, right? So the concept is introduced here, but we may not get the payoff for a while.
Right.
Similar to that, right? I was about to say similar in that vein. Hold that thought. What happened to Mordo and what he was doing at the end of the first movie?
Exactly. Well, they may take that up in the next one.
In the third one.
Yes.
Right.
Which by the way, getting to that part, so there was a we'll come back to this. We're kind of skipping ahead. We'll may jump back if we need to, but I got spoiled on a little bit of the end credit scene in the last day or two.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that because that was such a great surprise.
It kind of was, and it was from, matter of fact, I don't know how I saw it, because I've been actually slightly staying off of Twitter and
Did
whatnot.
you see it on the gram? Because she spoiled it on the gram.
I think it was on Twitter through the gram. Oh, it was on Twitter and she was pointing to the gram. But yes,
I gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
she spoiled it on the gram, and what we're speaking of, and we did ring the spoiler bell, folks, a while ago. Charlize Theron has officially joined the MCU,
and so now this gives more credence to the Fast and the Furious franchise and the MCU being more closely related than anyone has ever thought. And it hurts me.
It doesn't hurt me that way. I was shocked. I was like, oh, I probably cursed, real loud, and I had to explain to my crew that I was with because they're not comic heads. That is a strictly comic character. There is no other place that you would have seen that character. I don't know if that character ever appeared on like Avengers Mightiest Heroes or
I want to say one of them, yes.
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
So, there's no way, or there's very little chance that they would have been exposed to this character outside, prior to viewing this on screen. And I was struck dumb.
Right.
I was like, oh my God.
I was like, huh, all right. Like, even though even though I was kind of spoiled on it, I was like, okay, still got to see how it was executed. I'm like, oh,
right.
Okay, just kind of walks up, right? Bet.
Right. It's like listen, it's a green screen cameo. That's fine. Yeah. But, they got her done up, and, and obviously the character that Charlize Theron, I call her the Theron because just because. Right. And, she's playing Clea, right? Princess of the Dark Dimension, long time paramour of Doctor Strange and current in the comics, Sorcerer Supreme.
Yep. Which again, well, I was about to say that MCU.
It's funny that we should have guessed it because she has a book out
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get to. So I'm sitting here like, well, that's convenient. She's got a book out, but which, they killed Doctor Strange in the comics. And she just happens to pop up as Sorcerer Supreme now, huh?
Right. That's they don't weird. Make Wong like the Sorcerer Supreme like they do in the movies. Right. They're just like, oh, you know what? We're gonna bring Clea back, and we're gonna do that for her.
Right. And it just so happens, they did do it. They still did it, huh? And
it was pretty fun. Yeah. I'm sorry that got spoiled for you. I mean, it's hard to avoid because when I saw Charlize Theron post that, it was maybe a couple of days ago.
Yeah, right? I think I saw it
and today we're recording this on a Thursday, and a couple of days ago really only puts the movie being out for maybe a weekend and a day or two.
Right.
And she posted, I was like, dang, that's a little soon, lady.
Right. So, but like I said, I think I saw it like yesterday being Wednesday when we started recording, or it's still Thursday. So, but anyway, but yeah, that's that aside. I don't know, real quick, like I said, I don't know. I'm still processing the movie because, like I said, I just saw it today, and
there's a lot to it. There is a lot
to it.
I can't lie. There is a lot to it,
and that's the kind of things with Marvel. A lot of some of these Marvel movies, like there's a lot that goes into it. And going back to what we were saying, like, are they going to make good on some of this stuff, or is it just like, did they waste a good? I don't want to say wait. Well, did they waste a good opportunity to start some other stuff for this?
Did they make it like a throwaway reference? Right. That's really what we worry about, and it's not it's not unprecedented. That's the unfortunate part.
So, and we don't know.
Is it more Easter egg than plot device? That's really what we worry about.
Exactly. Now, granted, they've been doing more Easter eggs in the shows than and some of the bigger stuff in the movies, but they are not prone. They're not above just kind of throwing away stuff in the movie that could have been something. Like I said, they kind of set up Secret Wars. That one could probably be, if anything.
I'm pretty sure that one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Incursion stuff that's going to be here to stay. I
hope so.
I think I think this is the movie that starts to set up where they're going. It's just that if you're not familiar with that, you're not 100% sure.
Right. But like but stuff along with that, you know, like, okay, so what are we doing here? Where are we going with this? We'll
Yeah, I
have
mean,
to wait
it's
and
the
see.
whole, it's the multiverse, right? Like you know, like what I was telling the crew was that, and I had to remind them that Doctor Strange was supposed to come before Spidey, right? So they had to reshoot a little bit of Doctor Strange to accommodate that.
Right.
And you know, they do make just a passing reference to Spidey at the beginning of the movie. And some of the people I was with were disappointed. They thought it would have tied in more closely. I'm like, but that's Sony.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. But again, like you just said, it is Sony, and I felt like in a way or two, that Spidey movie kind of blown out the multiverse a little bit better than this movie did in a way,
because of the order that I think they were introduced. I think they would have been or should have been introduced. I think that just couldn't be helped.
Right.
But I think that if you just take them together as a whole, as a way of introducing the concept, I think together they work out okay.
Oh, totally.
In that now that we have the concept of the multiverse, now we have the concept of incursions. Right. And I think the concept of incursions was already established in No Way Home, but did not have the name because they did not want to put it in a Sony movie.
I think you talking about the Mysterio stuff, where he was,
Well, kind of the Mysterio stuff, but kind of just the concept of all these realities coming in, right, and bouncing off. I think that you kind of have to take a look at the concept of the multiverses colliding as a whole, and then put the terminology of incursion into the Marvel movie so they don't drop it in the Sony movie.
Right.
So I think that now that you take them together, the two of those movies together, you throw in the concept of incursion, now you can move forward. And all of that stuff can start leading to Secret Wars. I think that's the roadmap we're on. It's just harder to comprehend because we don't have that easy connective tissue of a SHIELD agent, a SHIELD organization gathering people together.
Right. Or some of the other aspects that that we would know coming into the Secret Wars.
Right. This is even more comic booky than ever, to be honest.
Yeah.
They are absolutely, this is like back, I hate to use Crisis on Infinite Earths as a reference, but the very first hint of Crisis on Infinite Earths happened in the pages of New Teen Titans. And when I was a kid, I did not understand what was going on. It was a brief, like 2 or 3 panel aside that Wolfman and Perez put into New Teen Titans to kind of tease I think it was the Anti-Monitor.
Gotcha.
Right. And this is the epitome of the long game, and just as we were talking about before about how Hickman introduced the concept of incursions, it took them like 30 issues, close to 2 years to execute the Secret Wars, to get to the point where they could start executing the Secret War story.
But the beautiful thing about it built up lovely though,
Right. So we have to be patient. We have to see how this builds up across these next several MCU projects, Disney Plus and movie projects.
All right, that's been saying. I feel like we will probably come back to Doctor Strange in some kind of way, probably next week. Who knows? And I'm sure that there's going to be some articles or whatnot. But we need to move on. I had 1 or 2 things I wanted to ask you because it is so fresh in your mind, and I'm sorry that we are running long, so we're going to keep things moving at a quicker pace once we finish this. What did you think of the third eye stuff? Yeah, see, that's again, I was like, okay, I see it, like with the whole thing with the dark hole and like, where is that going? What is that supposed to be? Like, okay, this is technically that's going into his next movie. I assume that's going to play in that some way, but I'm like, I don't know though, because and and it also was weird because, like, if you think about it, our earlier, older Doctor Strange comics had the third eye, had him using the third eye with the eye of Agamotto.
Well, no, I was about to say that's the classic use of the eye of Agamotto or
Right.
Agamotto, the way they pronounce it in the in the MCU, right?
Right.
The classic use of the eye of Agamotto is that he opens the lid and the eye affixes itself magically to his forehead so that he can see illusions, he can do this, that, like whatever the author, the writer needed him to do,
Right.
the eye would help him do, right?
Right.
So I'm like looking at this, I'm like, that's creepy, but that's not the way the third eye is supposed to manifest.
Right.
What is going on?
Right.
And then
basically
they have the eye, right? They have the eye, like when he's opening the whatchamacallit, the safe.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right. So he uses the eye to do something. So there's still some magic in the eye.
Right.
Right. But he doesn't use it to manifest the actual third eye. I'm like, come on, this is natural.
And so they basically tied the third eye to his use of the Darkhold.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, that part I kind of had a problem with. Because what we just said is like, okay, we know the classic use of the eye, the third eye being there, and I'm sitting here like, wait, so you're attaching this to this, and the Darkhold's been quote unquote dealt with for so and so. So what are you going to do with this now?
Right.
So, yeah, it was kind of weird, and it was good to see the eye still being used even without
in some form, right?
Yeah. So that was cool, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, we never got the. That was the thing that made me think about it. And it was like, wait a minute, we've had the eye all this time. He's never used it in that way, and all of a sudden, poop, third eye shows up because of his use of the Darkhold. I'm like, that's I don't know. What are we doing with this?
Right, and we're just hoping that this is something that is more, something that'll be explained in the third movie. We just have to be patient.
Hopefully, we'll see. You said you had something else to ask me, or was that it?
No, I think that was the bulk of it.
Yeah.
Just that I was just curious to hear what you had to say about that. And there are two interrelated things about I think that's what it was, the eye, the third eye from the Darkhold, and the actual use of the eye of Agamotto, because it's not just there to clasp together his cloak.
Right.
It is supposed to function still. So we know that, obviously its primary function was to house the time stone, but in the comics it has so much more.
Right. And it took 2 movies and the Darkhold to get to it to be to be shown in a reasonable way, but it's still not used in the same way. So I don't know. That's weird. What's something else I was going to say, but I don't remember what it is at this point. Yeah. Oh. So I know people. This is the last thing is that we can move on. But this is just kind of a throwaway. But Bruce Campbell, obviously, the Sam Raimi staple, shows up in the movie, and it got me thinking. People want Deadpool as the Stan Lee cameo in the MCU. Why not Bruce Campbell?
Yeah.
Like why not? I don't know. Make him. I don't know. He probably could have been a Cable or something. I don't know. But they go ahead and give it to Bruce. That man's he's earned it.
Listen, you know what? It wouldn't be a terrible thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I for the most part, I can safely say that I kind of I did enjoy the movie, but at the same time, I'm like, there's some processing I still need to do. I don't know if I would go back and watch it again. And I still
I
need
don't know if this is something that I would watch in the theaters again.
Yeah,
I would watch. I would definitely, as soon as it hits Disney Plus, I'll watch it again.
Yeah, or physical, one of the two, whichever. Well, it'll hit Disney Plus first, but regardless, yeah. So, especially in line with what will probably be out by the time it hits streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's out there. Doctor Strange's mom, catch it. We're gonna move on to books really, really quickly because we have spent a good hour on this almost. That's pretty great. We're gonna start off with, what do we say? Iron Man number. So we got 2 weeks worth of books. We're gonna start off with last week's books, at least 1 or 2, with Iron Man number 19.
And the creative team on this is The book is written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Cafu, colors by Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So I will tell you that I dropped this book from my physical pull list during this run. This story has essentially lasted 19 issues. This Korvac, this reintroduction of Korvac to the Marvel Universe. And it just took a while to develop. I thought there were several slow points in the middle of the story, but seeing how we got to the end, it is kind of similar to how the original Korvac saga played out, in the sense that, you know, they brought the humanity back.
Yeah.
To Korvac, and you know, they literally brought the humanity back to Korvac. They brought him back to being human,
Right.
and they brought a level of understanding. So it's kind of like, at least from my perspective, that Cantwell was looking. You know, he kind of combined a little bit of Demon in a Bottle and a little bit of the Korvac saga into this story. What do you think?
No, oh, I totally agree. Yeah, you could like, granted, if you are new to Iron Man and newer to the books, you would not know this. So this is all fresh to you. But for those of us that have been around for a while and have read both of those stories, like, yeah, you can definitely see it. It was, so yeah, it's been there this whole time we've been reading it, and I'm like, okay, sure. And even the way that, I guess, presumably it is dealt with, almost, it's not, obviously did not end the same way, but yeah, like you said, bringing the humanity back to Korvac's part, going into the outset of it, it was kind of the thing. Again, it doesn't seem like it's, I'm not sure if that part was final or not, or even if that actually happened, because we never see what happens after that. So
you are correct.
So there could be something still going on with this, that they'll probably come back to in a couple of issues, but we don't know.
If not a couple of issues, at least in the future, wherever they need to touch back upon what happens to Korvac.
Right. Like, even if it's, and I would hope they wouldn't do this, but it would be par for the course, I suppose. Like, it'd be a throwaway line of like, yeah, damn shame what happened to Korvac, you know, which I feel like that would be a waste, because like, why set all that up just to kind of throw it away like that, you know? But yeah, it has gotten to this point. Tony's doing this thing, I guess, and we're still building up to that other thing that's that we know is going to happen, which I could have sworn was going to happen before now, but I guess that is next issue.
Right.
Yeah, with the or at
With
least
Pat
the
Walker?
yeah, the Patsy Walker thing. So yeah, I guess we're still leading up to that. That's still a go. I don't know. Yeah, Iron Man 19. That's pretty much all you say about that, realistically.
Yeah. Well, because it's a lot of talking heads, which is why I chose to really take like a 10,000-foot view of it and just see it from our perspective as longtime readers. And if you're looking to, read it and you don't go back as far, you're not a long timer like us, right? That's the way I put it. You're not of the same vintage as us. Then maybe this will be like a new introduction to you to this aspect of the Iron Man character and the Korvac story.
Now, the one thing I am kind of curious about, if there are any old long-timer vintage folks out there who have been reading these books. I don't know how many people there are at this point who saw this and be like, oh, they're just rehashing this and that and the other. Like, boo.
Right, but it's interesting that they combine the two.
Right.
But that Cantwell decided to take these two kind of famous stories, one more closely associated with Iron Man than the other.
Right.
The other one, the Korvac story was obviously, across the pages of the Avengers.
Some would say he's probably taking some notes from the MCU, and I'm not saying that like actually as in the blending of two stories into making a one. I don't even want to say coherent, but I guess it kind of is story.
Right. No, I get that. I absolutely get that. That makes a lot of sense.
So, But yeah, moving right along. We don't actually have anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna spin up. I'm gonna spin up the minigun so we can rapid fire last week's books.
Okay.
Sorry, Jesse.
I ain't got time to move.
Flashpoint Beyond, #1 of 6. So I decided to read this. This is written by Jeff Johns and Jeremy Adams and Tim Sheridan, with art by Germanico Michael Janin, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr. and Jordi Belair, with letters by Rob Lee. So yeah, if you're familiar with the Flashpoint story, I'm only vaguely familiar with it. I actually watched the DC animated version, which is, apparently a pretty good adaptation of it.
Yep.
And so this takes that to another point in time. It's not exactly a continuation, but it's more of a beyond, as it were. Because that's what DC does.
Yeah. Marvel's done
it's
it.
Not
too.
Say again.
So Marvel's done similar.
Yeah. If it's not a crisis, it's a flashpoint.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what this is, and they're gonna bring in some hyper time. That's where the book ends. There's a tease that there's a death in hyper time, and Barry Allen is involved here. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So yeah, that's what that is. And last for me, and I'm surprised that Roddykat did not read this, is Avengers Forever #5. It's written by Jason Aaron with art by Jim Toe, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit.
I don't remember if I read 4. That's why I didn't read it.
Ah, I see. This issue is a little bit of a standalone. So, you won't necessarily have to have read too much prior to this, but this issue focuses upon there's a council of everything in the Marvel Universe. There's a council of Mephistos, or a league of Mephistos. What did they call them in the pages of Avengers?
I don't remember. I'm just going with Council of Council of Mephisto, but I don't remember.
Right, because at the end of the day, we were introduced to the concept of Council of Reeds. There's a Council of Mephistos. The Council of Dooms isn't exactly what we get here, but what we get here is a play on that idea, and we have a Doom that considers himself the Doom above all, and this is a variant of the Doom that comes from that I think it's the unbelievable. Oh no, I think it's Unforgivable storyline that Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo, rest in peace, Mike Wieringo, did on the Fantastic Four, where Doom basically kills like his teenage crush and makes magical armor out of her skin. Did you ever read that? That's a great storyline.
I don't think I ever did. No.
That's a great storyline. If you are on Marvel Unlimited, this is not a plug. I will look up those issues and try to plug them in, if not into the show notes, into a tweet or something, where that is definitely worth your time to read. And I will definitely pass that on to Roddykat and see if he makes time to read that after he reads Hulk Future Imperfect #1 and 2.
Oh,
and essentially,
speaking of, you didn't read War and
I skimmed it. It's not it's not that big a deal. Did you read it?
No.
I skimmed it. So, but bottom line is, that this issue is really all about Doom and this particular Doom's place and all the places of Doom in the multiverse. And that is the point of Avengers Forever. And that's it for my books for the week of May 5th.
Would you say it was a Legion of Doom?
Oh, no.
You had to see that coming. You just had to.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the wrestling Legion of Doom because it wasn't a Rush, and oh, what a rush! But yeah, I thought it was, being familiar with that run of comics and that run of comics being familiar and a favorite of mine. It was kind of cool that Aaron chose that particular incarnation of Doom to make the Doom above all.
Sure. You know, Aaron's good for some good pulls.
Yeah. You go ahead
for
for last week, and then we'll
Yep.
move on to this week.
I gotta pull up a book so I can get the thing here. But for my books from last week, we go with Star Wars number 23, with the creative team of. Yeah, that's it. I'm trying to do 3 things at once. It's not great. Think. There we go. Creative team of Charles Soule, writer, Raymond Rosanas as artist, Rachel Rosenberg as colorist, VC's Clayton Cowles as the letterer. So this takes up after the last issue where a ragtag group of rebels takes it upon themselves to go rescue Shara Bay, who is Poe Dameron's mom. The one leading the charge is Poe Dameron's dad. The Leia and the rest of the rebellion get a wind of this, and I think they're going back up. But this whole issue is pretty much where the rebels think they got this Imperial commander on the ropes, and she comes to show them how not true that is, with some pretty ruthless efficiency before these the rebel group that has infiltrated the Star Destroyer kind of put a kink in her plans. But yeah, she was pretty much she was outnumbered, outgunned, and took out a couple of rebel a bunch of rebels, including having them take care of themselves. It was a pretty good read, I gotta say. But this is all leading off to another showdown between her and Princess Leia, which she's been itching for because she's a driven woman. So we shall see what happens with that next issue. Next book is still in the Star Wars corner with Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi #1, because since there's a show coming out, you gotta give Mans a book. I know that's a cynical view of things, but guess what? That's just the way it is.
Some things will never change.
Exactly. But let's see. Speaking of Christopher Cantwell, he's the one who's writing this book. So this is his first non-armored book he's writing, armored character book that he's writing. And artists of Ario Anadito, colors by Carlos Lopez, and letters by our lettering paisan, one VC's Joe Caramagna. I said that for 1874 to one time. So yeah, so this issue is pretty much it starts off as Old Ben, but then of course, as has done in the pages of Star Wars proper in the past, kind of goes back into time with a story from Obi-Wan's youth. In this particular case, it goes back to when he was a little youth in the Jedi Temple, and we meet his best friend of another Padawan named Jaren, I believe her name was. And of course, if you know anything from Clone Wars and Obi-Wan has been friendly with the ladies since for a long time. In this case, this was not that type of a friend, but just like, hey, this is the person who protected him in the Jedi Temple, and they clearly, ended up being best friends. But something happens, and Obi-Wan tries to help out, and then end up turning out well, and he ends up coming back to the temple by himself. So I don't know where this story is going, but I assume we're going to meet this character again at some point during the course of this. I think this is a miniseries. Actually, I'm not sure. I believe it's a 5-issue miniseries, and I should have checked that out, but I'm not sure. But this is basically seemingly like Obi-Wan kind of recounting stories in his youth, unlike much like what happened in the pages of Star Wars early on. So far, it's pretty good starting off. Next up, Magic number 14, which is the Magic the Gathering book. There we go. Boop. So, let's see. Jed McKay is writing, Igwar is illustrating, colors by Ariana Kansani, and letters by Egg Dukeshire. So yeah, our three planeswalkers are pretty much in a swamp looking for some cauldron because they need it for their next step of their quest and try to save Ravnica. And apparently this cauldron has been testing them this whole time in the swamp. And I guess they had enough mana to get through their ordeal, because at the end of this, they seemingly have chosen wisely. To what extent, we don't know, but I guess we will find out next issue. Last but not least for last week, Nubia Coronation Special number 1. This is a buckle up because there's a bunch of people on this one. Writers Stephanie Williams and Vida Ayala. Art by Marguerite Savage or Savage. Is it Savage or Savage? You don't know? Okay, neither do I. Colleen Doran, Daryl Banks, Jill Thompson, and Aletha Martinez. Colors by Marguerite Savage and Colleen Doran. Hi-Fi, Jill Thompson, and Alex Gomarez, and letters by Becca Carey. So the name pretty much sells it all. There was a coronation special because, Nubia is queen of the Amazons, but this is her official coronation. But what this pretty much is that's pretty much the set piece, but it's also a couple of backstories into getting into a little bit of Nubia's backstory. I am not entirely sure if these were previously done stories or these are new. I think one of them particularly is new backstory or new information on Nubia, but it looks like there's kind of interspersed with what's going on in the coronation and some backstory into Nubia. It's from what I skimmed through, it's pretty good. You should check it out. And that is it for my books from last week. So now we're going to get into this week's books by talking about... You want to talk about the cat book?
Sure. We can talk about Captain America: Symbol of Truth number 1. It's written by Tochi Onyebuchi with art by R.B. Silva, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is the first out the gate of these twin parallel running Captain America books, one with Sam Wilson as Captain America and one with Steve Rogers as Captain America. So we've settled the idea of having more than one Captain America, and now they are on missions that are running separately from each other. Inevitably, they're going to cross over at some point. But in this case, we have a very Falcon and the Winter Soldier opening to this story.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad
it was
you picked up
very
on that.
reminiscent of that.
Mm-hmm. Which is not bad, but it was like it was just noticeable.
It was almost like ripped out of the story of the limited series, right?
Mm-hmm. First,
we get a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said first episode.
Right. So we get a little bit of backstory and exposition from Misty Knight, Mercedes Knight. You have to be reminded of what her actual full name is. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing that I've always struggled with Sam Wilson, it's like they're giving him extra abilities that I don't know he had before. I'm like, is this dude invulnerable? He's taking on like full on missile strikes.
I noticed that, and not only that, but Falcon, apparently the new Falcon went up into space.
Space! What is he flying on? What is he gliding on?
I know he's got his his abilities are natural. So I'm sitting here like, I don't know if he should be able to do. Now, granted, he had no armor, but, so I'm thinking the only thing I can say is that has to be vibranium. That's the only thing I can think of come close. But even still, that's kind of a stretch. Yeah.
Even still.
Yeah, because I thought about that too.
It makes sense, right? It makes sense that they would armor him up more than they would Steve.
Right.
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 And because we're presuming that he's got a strictly either adamantium or vibranium shield. Right. It's one or the other.
Right.
Right. Or maybe some sort of hybrid, but not as strong as the original shield. Right.
Right.
But as Roddykat mentioned, what is implied in the in the MCU is that the new Falcon uniform is going to be Wakandan tech, and the suit itself is Wakandan tech, not just the wings. Right. Originally in the comics, the wings were Wakandan tech, but he didn't have any sort of armor or anything else on it. So we're going to presume that that's what is giving him like a little bit of extra speed, strength, and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of bristled on the same thing you did. No, maybe not necessarily, but that kind of struck me.
Oh no, like it was startling, right? It was startling. Like, what the heck is that?
Right. I was like, wait, he got hit with a missile. What looks to be twice, if those panels are to be believed. But definitely one big missile. I'm sitting here like, that's a surface-to-air missile, and this just is some dude. Now, granted, the shield probably could have taken some of, but the way they presented it, I'm like, no.
No, the shield's in his arm. It's not on his back.
That's what I'm saying. So, like the way they presented it is like he just kind of took that, and like you said, I'm like, how? What? Like the explosions are right there behind him. It's just like, and he just almost like hulks out of it or something, and he's just like, nope, I'm all right, we're good. I'm like, how does that even happen? What happened?
Right. And he does do one shield throw, which bothered me also. I was just like, come on, man. I know he had practice. This is not the same as the MCU version of Sam, right?
Right.
But I'm like, come on, man. You got to make it look a little like he just can't do the same stuff that Steve does. He can't. It's just different.
Right. Exactly. Right. And I would hope that would never try to present it as such. I mean, he has a he has different abilities, and he can use
he can fly. That's the best part.
Right, and he can integrate those abilities a little bit different than obviously Steve can. So yeah, so that gives him a little bit more to deal with.
It's just I just think it's amazing to me. I'm like, come on, man. Like 1, 2, 3 hits with the shield, really?
It's about the man, not the shield. I don't know.
Like I said, it's to make the people and the MCU fans happy, and I get that. But I'm like, this guy can fly already. Do you understand how cool that is? Just for like a regular dude, he's got a flying suit that actually doesn't take up like a lot of bulk, and he can fly super fast. Come on.
Right, and we were not joking about that Falcon Winter Soldier parallel, because there are some shots that looked like they were pretty much lifted from that first episode.
Yeah, all the way down to the whatchamacallit, the human trafficking.
Yeah. You're right. So, although, it still plays. Never mind. I was about to say something, but no, it's still. You're right. There's nothing else to say about that. I'm sitting here like, okay, so where's this? And again, I ask myself, where's this going? Because we get the initial mission. We get a little bit of previously, with him getting a mention and a little bit with Misty Knight, and apparently they stayed closer together than they knew. They could have met earlier, but that's kind of a thing that kind of comes up in here. But the mission kind of goes a certain way, and like I said, ends up a certain way. And then at the end, we get presumably the bad guy of this first arc, and this person is tied to the Black Panther more closely than a Cap villain. Although there is another Cap villain that this person is talking to.
Right. I was going to say, is that the same character from the Black Panther books?
So, yes, it's supposed to be. Yes. Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that because the name obviously is what stuck out to me,
Mhm.
but the imagery was not familiar to me. So that's where I was thrown off.
Which is also weird because now that I think about it, I told because that Black Panther Legends book came out last week also, and the character is in that book, and I believe this is kind of shades of getting that character to where probably coming towards this, even though that character was historically already to that point, but this is kind of a retelling of, I guess, getting to that point. So I've kind of wondered if that was going on ways to get to leap to this in a certain way to bring this character here for this.
Right.
But
And
we don't know.
that explains the thing that he's wearing on top of the suit.
Right. So, but yes, this is definitely that character. I'm saying like that's interesting. So, what are they going to do? Again, it's a few questions of what's going to happen here. Like, what's going to,
Gotcha. Well, they're going to, much like you said before about, Wakanda being like a close tie to his equipment. We're going to presume that, it makes some sense that they would tie, a Wakandan character, Wakandan tangent character to his story.
And I believe it is even implied that, because it's even implied, actually probably more than implied, but it is implied that this person is going after two countries, and it's probably could be implied that one of those countries is, even though it's never said, could be Wakanda.
Yeah.
So, and it would make sense for that character. So, but like I said, we'll see. This was the first issue. It's a weird first issue because of the stuff that we mentioned already, but I don't know. We'll see if they're and that the image page that shows what's going to come next may or may not be making it that much better for me, but I'm gonna stick with it for a couple more for a few more issues to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this is not a character that's on either of our favorite character lists that is set to appear in the next issue. So,
right.
We'll see how this progresses.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, do you want to just jump right into rapid fire for this week?
Sure.
Or do you have another book that you want to kind of touch on? Because we read very similar. We read mostly the same books this week.
We should touch on Shang-Chi real quick.
All right. So we'll jump into Shang-Chi number 12, written by Jean Luen Yang, with art by Marcus To, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So do you want to start with that?
Sure. I can sum it up by saying this. It's MCU, folks. It is here.
Oh, it is straight
now.
up.
Yep. It is here. It is now. It is in your freaking face. If you're watching the video, you can see the cover. If you've seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, yeah, you get the parallel because it is here right now. This is the last issue of this book going into the new renumbering of Shang-Chi, which is, I believe, called. It's not called.
Yeah, it's a relaunch. Yeah, no, it's Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, I think it is.
Yeah. So, there is that.
Yeah, it's like a relaunch / renumbering because literally they're just coming out with a new number 1 next month.
Right.
But it's been like issue number 13.
Presumably, if that last part of the book is to be led to believe, I'm guessing they're putting some toys back in the box with the rest of his family. Unless they're going to bring them back for the next book. We don't know. But it seemed like they wouldn't have had to do what they did at the end of this if they were going to do that. But we'll see. I mean, things have happened before. But regardless, the crux of this book is like this one last battle with Shang-Chi and his family. There is a battle over the Ten Rings, of which he ends up getting. Some of it parallels the movie in the way that he got them, in the partial use of them. So if you've seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings movie, and you read this issue, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that is totally parallel," and it's ridiculous. That's all I got to say about that.
Listen, I am in full agreement with Roddykat. We're all kind of not, obviously shocked is not the right word. We're just all kind of You know what? We all have to kind of, grin and bear it, as it were, when it comes
Yeah.
to this stuff. When it comes to corporate synergy, we all have to just accept it because it's going to happen. And, they want to have, these characters kind of parallel each other in the comics as well as, in the movies. Obviously, that is definitely going to be part of what Kevin Feige brings to his current role, his new role, his newly established role of being like a creative director
Right.
of all things Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's no surprise, but at the same time, it's nice to see that they're doing something with the character that's not like that the awful stereotypes, but at the but
Yeah.
in the same regard, some of us miss the best parts of those stories, and it's a shame that they're leaving the best parts of those stories behind.
Right.
The spy stuff,
Right.
the intrigue, the international intrigue stuff. Now we're getting into like straight up super heroics, and Shang-Chi's just not, he's not being portrayed as being like 100% capable. It's almost like they regressed him a little bit as a character just so that they could make him match what he's like on the screen right now.
Right. You know what's weird?
Just the touch. I don't know if you sense that.
No, I get that. You're right. You're right. You know what it kind of feels like to me, even though they're going a different route with the Iron Fist character, is it felt like, well, if they did do that, they would be they would be mirroring Iron Fist. But even the Iron Fist that we have now is not the same as the original Iron Fist, who's kind of in the back seat at this point. So that was a weird reasoning if that was the case of what they thought. Like, for some strange reason, even if it had something to do with the parallelization to the MCU, they did not necessarily have to do this. I feel like, because if you just go back to what Hickman did in the Avengers run, great stuff. He was on the Avengers. He didn't even have, he was on par and didn't even have to have any other power-ups. He was just the master of Kung Fu. And they used him effectively. Well, somewhat effectively. I mean, at a certain point, they really didn't do too much to him. But the times that they used him, they had him great.
Right. I want to say, like, I think Iron Man gave him some weapons. I think that's it.
Yeah. But still, he wasn't like totally relying on that. Not saying that he's relying on this now, but let's face it, they are putting this on him now for him to use more of in the future.
Yeah.
More reliably.
Exactly. So
yeah, this is where we are.
Yeah,
and it's kind of sad.
And it's funny, the parallels in the issue with the exact events, just with different characters.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
It made me laugh. I was like, oh, look at that. It's almost like laid out the same way too.
Yeah. I'm sitting there like, good, just like the Captain America book. I'm just like, oh, really? This is where we are though. Like I said. Wow. But anyway, that's that. We can go on to rapid fire after this.
I do have a sound effect for this, folks.
I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, that fits. That absolutely fits. All right,
all right. So we're rapid firing everything else.
Yep.
I ain't got time to breathe.
Alrighty, next up for me is Hulk versus Thor: Banner of War #1. It's written by Donny Cates, with art by Martin Coccolo, colors by Matt Wilson, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So I actually needed a little bit of a hand reading this book, and what I received was a welcome, a welcome note, introductory note to this issue. What I'm referring to is that opening page that I think Quesada put in, and that he instituted during his reign as editor-in-chief, right? I needed this because I read both Thor and Hulk. I took Hulk off my pull list, but I do read it when we get our preview copies. And I actually needed to see why on earth these characters are interacting, because it was teased at the end of the last issue of Hulk.
Right.
And, I really needed this, this opening scroll and that opening splash page to figure out why on earth Thor is encountering Hulk at this point in time, and where he's encountering him and why. So I really did need that. So I appreciated that, and that actually helped me to understand this. And there were actually elements of this which were very Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You didn't get it until you looked at it just now, but I look at it having read it after watching it.
Right.
It's like they're in, it's almost like they're in they're on a planet, but it's almost like they're in a reality where, it's just so different, and it's so, well, it's not a spoiler, it's so cartoon-like.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I kind of thought that was like a funny aspect here, but to move on to later parts of the issue, we literally have Street Fighter 2 Capcom Marvel versus Capcom layout.
Yep.
Including the sound effects, put in there by Joe Sabino.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I also read this too, and I'm like, yeah, everything Age of 70 just said still holds true, and I did not read the Thor book, but I have read the Hulk book, and like you said, that first page is explaining pretty much everything that happened. That's happened up until now was necessary. I kind of knew what was going on in the Hulk book because I was reading that. The El Paso thing, I can't remember too well, and I don't remember if that was from Immortal or if that was from.
It was from the beginning of the first Hulk of Cates' Hulk. It was like from the very, very beginning. It's still a mystery,
right? So, and that was the thing. I was like, okay, what is that about? And so I'm good. I'm glad that's whatever that is. So yeah, getting up into the fight, and Cates is kind of known for doing stuff like this. Well, I think we can safely say that. Like he likes the big I don't want to say bombastic, but that's probably the closest thing you could say. That's true.
Yeah.
So
the slobber knocker. He sets up a lot of slobber knockers.
Yes. And this is one of those, including going into the end of this book. I don't know. I guess this is gonna go back. Yeah, this is gonna go back into the Thor book, because it's going back and forth between Hulk and Thor since he's writing both of those books.
Right. Right. So now you know what the status quo of Odin is.
Yes, I do now. Yeah. So I'm just like, yeah, exactly. And it did kind of put me up to that. I was like, okay. I remember you telling me about the funeral and stuff like that, and then this kind of. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't spoil. That's the thing. I didn't spoil it last week.
Right.
So this was the development, the character development that I chose not to spoil in my review of the book last week. So now that it's been kind of presented to you in reading this book, now you know.
Right. I'm sitting here like, that's weird. I found it funny that both of them had people talking in their ears, and they was like, shut up.
Yeah. It's like, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
Right. And then and then just start fighting again.
Yeah.
I actually kind of felt like Thor Ragnarok when they were when it was fighting. I almost expected them to say, hey, you were well, I guess it wasn't gonna say that. It's a friend from work.
Yeah. I definitely got that vibe too. Because they literally put them in a galactic arena for fighting.
Right. Another celestial body part that houses something.
Right, it's probably Nowhere's hand. The celestial.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Celestial's hand.
Good point. Yeah. And what the hell? So, and the thing that the most thing that kind of would go on after this, the thing that really struck me with the weirdest about this was what the hell was Uatu doing there?
Well, thank you for mentioning that. When I first read that, I was like, so what's going on in FF?
Right. Exactly. I'm like, where is this taking place? Where he's just sitting here chilling, just watching the fight.
Eating popcorn.
Right. Like, oh, the popcorn is quite good. I'm like,
I had the same thought when I read that. Same thought. All right. Last for me in Rapid Fire is X-Men number 11. It's written by Jerry Duggan with art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So, interestingly, this, this issue follows up on another kind of dangling plot thread that Duggan has had in this volume of X-Men, namely the gambling planet, the whatchamacallit, Game World. And they they tie in a couple of galactic characters, galaxy characters, guardians as it were, to kind of tie in this particular location and to provide the X-Men with some intelligence on how to get there and what's going on there. And so they dispatch a group of X-Men to deal with that. And obviously the mission isn't exactly going to plan. Also, we have another group of X-Men who are working on Earth to deal with yet another plot thread that has been going on throughout this volume that revolves around the unfortunately witnessed death of Cyclops, a very public death of Cyclops. So there is, stuff that has to deal with that, and there is a big reveal at the end of this issue where you're just sort of like, I wish, now that I think about it, I'm like, I still have not yet found the right and I don't want to quote Tim the Toolman Taylor, but that's sort of the reaction that I had here. I was just like, what the heck is that? Like, I guess I honestly guess the closest thing that I have in terms of a sound effect to this is probably, you know what it is? It's probably, let's see, where did I put it? I apologize, folks. I did add a couple of new sounds to this, so I want to see if I can find it, because I don't want to butcher it. I do have it as a sound effect. And I think Roddykat knows what I'm talking about too.
Mm-hmm.
I probably just like glossed over it just now, and I gotta figure out what color I made it. That's the worst. Well, essentially, what I'm looking for is a What You Talking About Willis. If I find it, I'll play it. But bottom line is that's what, when I got to the end cliffhanger page, I was like, really? What you talking about, Willis?
I was also there too.
I just found it.
What you talking about, Willis?
Thank you.
I kind of felt like that also, but also at the same time, I was like, okay, sure. Yep. Why not? Surprise. But then again, I guess we still have to get a little bit more on the next issue, because I was like, why? I was not that surprised that this character or who this character looks like was the case. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume there's going to be a little bit more to it that we're going to find out about, but this makes complete sense, sort of.
And what's funny is that the variation of this character is related to card decks. You saw it, right?
Wait, did I say? Oh, yes. Yes.
Yep. I was just like, huh. So is that where he's going? Where Duggan's going with this? That's interesting.
Yes, I did see that. I'm like, huh. Okay. Like that. We'll see what happens next issue, or how to explain that out.
Yeah, a particular suit of cards. We'll put it that way. And that's it for me.
Okay, cool.
I know Roddykat has a few more books to go this week.
I do. I can breeze through a lot of these. Thankfully, though. First up, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Saturday Morning Adventures, number 3. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? I didn't get the creative team on this one, so that's fine. I think it's Eric Burnham that's writing it, but it'll be all right. It'll be fine. So this is pretty much the as it says, although G.I. Joe never came on Saturdays here, always came on during the weekdays, but this is pretty much the animated version of G.I. Joe. This is what it set into the world, the world that it set in. And yeah, it's a pretty bonkers plot by Cobra, because apparently the first issue I remember they had a giant bat. Oh no, they came across this genie Cobra Commander wished for a giant bat, battle android trooper, and set him upon GI Joe. And I can't remember what happened the last issue, but in true GI Joe fashion, Duke gets captured, ends up in Cobra's arena of sport in this particular issue. So there are some familiar grounds that this treads, and of course there are folks that go after him. There's even although there is a nice little wrinkle of who he's fighting in this arena, which is a callback to another episode of G.I. Joe, which is kind of amusing. But then it ends up seemingly, weirdly enough, seemingly like it's going into Contest of Champions territory in a way, because Cobra Commander puts his foot in his mouth and sets off a chain of events that well, it sets off something that has the genie taking control of the situation, let's just say. And we'll see what happens with that. Next in the next and last issue of this here thing. Next up is I Am Batman. Yeah, I Am Batman number 9. Still reading that. Excuse me for folks while I'm putting stuff together. Bing. These covers are going to be the death of me. So, John Ridley, writer, Kristen Deuce, and Stefan Segovia, the artist, colors by Rex Locus, letters by Troy Pateri. Jace got beat up. There's no easy way to say it. He got handed. And he's kind of still feeling kind of a way about that, and so much to the point that he's taking it out on other people. But also there's a couple other characters that are kind of going through some similar situation and trying to figure out what they should be doing and how to go about doing it. And all of this is wrapped up in the fact that there's a set of murders that the Batman and the police have been trying to tackle, but at the same time, the mayor's office has had to field some things from one of the victims who happened to be on the police force that is kind of causing some heat to come down in the city of New York. So there's a lot of things kind of bubbling up, and we're even getting shades of the next victim of said crime, presumably at the end of this issue. So we'll see where that goes. Next up, Time Before Time number 12. Zoop. Writer Declan Shalvey and Rory McInville, art by PJ Holden, Chris O'Halloran doing colors, and letters by Hassan Atsane Alom. So we get a little bit of backstory into we get a little bit of backstory with Nadia Wells and her partner before the events of the first few issues, but which all leads into the fact that her partner is trying to look for her, and of course her partner is kind of leading a whole lot of resistance, and at the end of this ends up in a holding pattern, let's just say, because of some things that are found out and some things that happened to him in the course of this book. So looks like this is setting up something that's probably going to come up later in another issue, as things tend to happen. This book is still good. I enjoy this book. Sometimes it's a little hard to follow, but it's still a good book. You should definitely check it out if you like time travel stuff, because it definitely does play with that a good bit. Last but not least, Blood Syndicate Season 1, number 1, which is on Milestone's return book. I have not read this originally. I did not read Blood Syndicate originally in the original run of Milestone, so I don't know too much about this. But writer Jeffrey Thorne, pencils by Chris Cross, inks by Juan Castro, colors by Will Quintana, and letters by Andrew Design. So I think from what I gather from reading this book, there's we get introduced to a couple of people that are coming home from a war, presumably the Gulf War, back to Dakota. They find out things have changed. One of them seemingly has powers, but did not know the fact that there are other powered individuals until halfway through this book, where Rocket ends up showing up and taking care of some guys, and him being hip to the fact that, hey, things have changed in Dakota, but also things ain't changed because they've got worse because a lot of gang shit, and therefore, streets is rough. So he's at the end of this kind of gets caught up in a little bit of that, but also finds out that the heroes that he's just found out about, that there are more people with powers than that is known, and that's going to set up the thing going forward. Like I said, I didn't read the original, so I'm not sure where or how this goes, but I figured I'd check it out at this point to see what's the deal. And that, folks, I think that is actually it for me. Yes, it is. Well, I did skim What If Miles Morales #3, but it was all right. Just not really much to talk about there. That's it for me.
All right. I wanted to touch upon that G.I. Joe Real American Hero Saturday Morning Adventures #3.
Sure.
I literally just flipped through it,
Mm-hmm.
and I regret not having read this before.
Yes, you should read.
This art style is heartwarming.
Mm-hmm.
The coloring is heartwarming because they employ like a flatter color palette to more easily reproduce and replicate the color scheme on the cartoon. Right? I remember reading the first issue. I'm gonna have to look in our archives for the second issue.
Yeah, it's good. I've been enjoying
reading this. And I'm skimming this because it doesn't take that much to read.
No, it doesn't.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, this is so fun. This is so fun. And then you get to the last pages,
mm-hmm.
and then you find out what the other half of battle actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
exactly.
My god, that's hysterical.
And of course, at the end of it, there's a PSA.
That is hysterical. That is hysterical. Oh man, this book is a treasure.
Yeah, I've been enjoying. I might actually get physical copies of find the physical copies of this run, because there's only 4 issues.
What's that?
It's only 4 issues, or it's going to be 4 issues
total. 4 issues total.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. This is such a nice throw. It's a nice throwback and recreation.
Well, yeah, and sadly, IDW is losing the G.I. Joe license. So even if it was ongoing, they weren't going to have it too much longer, because I think that their license ends this summer. So
right. It's a shame. Hopefully that this is a concept that was it Boom that has it next.
I'm not sure. I think so. That might be right.
Well, whoever holds it next, I hope that this is a concept that they can keep rolling, because the artist on this is very good at recreating the animation style. The animation art style.
Yeah, like I said, it's been good stuff. It's been fun. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Holy cow. All right. So Kliqs of the week for last week and this week. So we will take them in order. So Kliqs of the week.
Other guys didn't really give us anything, did they? No, they did not. Okay.
No, they're probably just, they probably didn't have a chance to catch up on all their reading because because of Movie Protocol last week.
Yeah. Well, I already know what my one for this week is, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. I mean, for last week, my pickings were slim for last week, so I'm going to go with Avengers Forever #5 because of the whole Doom Above All story. I thought that was a pretty cool. It's not one and done, but it's definitely like a more of a self-contained. Obviously they're going to be continuing with these multiversal Masters of Evil, but I thought that this was like a nice Doom-centric story.
Mm-hmm. The Legion. I think for myself, I'm going to go with Star Wars 23. Actually, it was pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and for this week, What do you
For
have?
this week? Oh man, it's a lock. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, Saturday Morning Adventures #3.
I don't blame you. I was just reading it. I was like, oh, this is so fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is so fun. Having not actually read it, I literally just skimmed it in like a minute, just like flipping through the pages.
It won't
I
take you that
can't-
much longer actually reading it. Trust me.
In good conscience, I can't really pick that as my click of the week this week. I did, in
Right.
fact, enjoy a couple of the ongoing books that I read this week. One of them being X-Men #11, because I really liked some of the characterization in that.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the all-girl away team
Yeah.
that they sent to Game World. I liked their interactions. I liked how, especially with the advent of Laura Kinney Wolverine, they don't necessarily have to have Logan on these missions to be the scrapper.
Right.
So it's cool that they can have like an all-female team go in on a mission like this. But I think what I'm going to go with is Hulk versus Thor Banner of War #1, because I like that they set up, from the beginning, the fact that, the people who pick this up may not be ongoing series readers. They may not be reading Hulk and Thor at the same time. So I like that the opening couple of pages really set up, not just that opening page that I mentioned earlier, but the first like 4 pages of the book set up the status quo of both characters, and then they go into the battle. So I really like the way that was set up. Whether or not, we're going to get anything good out of this, that's another story. But I like that this opening issue was nicely set up.
Yeah, it was bonkers in the way that I know enough about Kate's to be. So that was almost my click, but I was like, nah, I'm still going with G.I. Joe.
That's okay. I don't have any problems with that. That's pretty cool, because like I said, it was heartwarming for me to just flip through that.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's Clicks of the Week, folks.
That's it. All right. So before we move on to the news, I will break out our first ad read of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Our first ad read of the night is for Audible.com and a free 30-day trial for you, the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles podcast. Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So you can try out the audiobook of Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, or you can try the audiobook of It by Stephen King. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Comic Book Chronicles. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Comic Book Chronicles for your free audiobook. And now we get into the news.
And we start off with the cinematic news like we do about this time every week. Reservation Dogs' Devery Jacobs joins Echo Marvel series for Disney+. So if you recall from a couple of weeks ago, there was a story where this actress sent flowers to Alakwa Cox about Echo. And there was speculation that they were going to join, that whether they were going to be in the cast or not. And here's confirmation that that person is indeed joining the cast of Echo. So cool. And like I said, this is Devery Jacobs, who was from Reservation Dogs, who I heard was a good show, but I've never seen it. So next.
Wow. So I listened to this podcast and I don't remember hearing this. So I'm going to need to re-listen to this. So Moon Knight head writer Jeremy Slater revealed that a character from another Disney Plus Marvel Studios series was almost the Fist of Khonshu's love interest instead of Layla Al Faouli. During an appearance on House of R, that is the House of R on the Ringerverse, which I do listen to with Mallory Rubin and goodness, I forget her name from Variety. She used to be with Variety. I apologize. I do listen to your show. Slater discussed some ideas from the original pitch for Moon Knight. There were a lot of specifics in the pitch that did not wind up working in the show. He said, according to Slater, Maya Lopez, also, who you know as Echo, Alaco Cox, played by Alaco Cox, from Hawkeye was originally intended as Mark Spector's love interest, much like in the comics, instead of Layla Al Fawley. Wow, I did not know that. I didn't even know that was in the comics.
Neither did I. So when I read that, I was like, huh, that's weird.
News to me.
Yeah, same here. Ms. Marvel's entire Disney Plus series will receive a theatrical run in Pakistan because they don't have Disney Plus. So let's see. Yep, the Disney Plus series will get a special theatrical run in the South Asian country in honor of the titular hero's Pakistani heritage. The first 2 episodes will premiere on June 16th, the day after episode 2 of the show drops. Episodes 3 and 4 will debut on the 30th, and episodes 5 and 6 will hit the big screen on July 14th. As I said, Disney Plus is not available in Pakistan, which is why this is happening. So that's actually cool that they're getting it, despite that. So, the experience for it, seeing it in theaters, that'd be interesting. Anyway,
yeah.
Next up.
Definitely. All right. Next up, so Marvel Studios has swapped the release dates for 2 of its 2023 blockbusters, The Marvels and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So we talked about this a little earlier. According to Variety, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will arrive in theaters on February 17th, 2023, while The Marvels, which was originally on that date, has been pushed to July 28th, 2023.
Yeah, I don't think there was any reason given, but
yeah, they said that they didn't give a reason, but the rumor is that Quantumania is further along in production, so they could legitimately flip the 2 and have an on-time release.
Right. Spider-Man: No Way Home director John Watts no longer directing MCU's Fantastic Four. So as reported by Deadline, says there's nothing sinister attached to the departure, and Watts is expected to rejoin Tom Holland and Zendaya for the next entry of the Spider-Man franchise, whenever that might be. It just says here that he just needs a break from the superhero realm, which understandable, He did 3 movies, doing another. Fantastic Four don't need that, and neither does he. Nice to know your limitations. Next.
Denai Guerrera confirmed that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has a beautiful Chadwick Boseman tribute in the film. On the red carpet for the Met Gala, she told Variety about what fans can expect from the highly anticipated sequel. She was emotional at the prospect of talking about it, and she explained how Ryan Coogler has been instrumental in honoring the legacy of the beloved actor. Let's see. So she basically just said, listen, we poured everything we had into it. She hopes that we experience that and it resonates the way it does for them. It tells a very heart-wrenching story, and that is all she can say. She's very grateful for the way their director and writer handled that. Okay.
Looking forward to it. Hey, May the 4th was with folks this past couple of weeks ago, including and starting off with a new trailer for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. That is coming soon on Disney Plus, actually, in what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
Yeah, a couple
2
weeks.
Yeah.
End of the month.
Yep, sure is, on the 25th, I believe. And yeah, there was a new trailer. It was pretty good. I cannot wait for this show. That's all I can say. Did you watch it?
The new trailer? Yeah.
Yeah. It was good stuff. It made me more hyped about the show than I would thought that I would ever be. That's all I can say. If you haven't seen it by now, it's in the show notes. Check it out. Next.
Okay. Star Trek Strange New Worlds opening titles have been released. So the full opening titles for the show have been released, and there is a definite retro vibe around them. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say something about this. So yeah, this is Anson Mount, and I believe I dare say it's like a Discovery spinoff, but at the same time it's Apparently, this is Kelvin timeline. So, from what I've seen about this, so that's probably the partially interesting part about this. I will have to check it out at some point, but I want to catch up on Discovery first. Blake Lively to adapt Scott Pilgrim's creator's graphic novel Seconds. So Blake Lively is set to direct a film adaptation of the graphic novel Seconds from Brian Lee O'Malley. According to Hollywood Reporter, Lively made her directorial debut with the music video for Taylor Swift's I Bet You Think You're About Me. But Seconds will be Lively's first feature film for the spotlight. Edgar Wright, who adapted O'Malley's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World in 2010, is involved with the Seconds project as well, writing the script and serving as producer along with Mark Platt. Okay.
Yeah, did you see Blake Lively on the Met Gala?
I
with
did.
her Met Gala dress?
Yeah,
Holy cow, she looked. I was about to say, I'm like, yo, Ryan Reynolds is a lucky dude.
There was a lot of that. I mean, yeah, that was pretty much a stunner, but that was a couple of good looks at that joint from what I've seen on Twitter.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, I didn't look at all of them, but obviously that was one of the ones that got a lot of press because of the change in the colors and all that stuff, the transformation. I was like, okay,
right. I was like, all right, go ahead on. So next up.
All right. Next up, Batwoman has been canceled on the CW after 3 seasons. There's more CW cancellation news that dropped today.
Oh yeah. I think I did see something, but I don't think. Well, anyway, we'll get to it.
Yeah. So showrunner Carolyn Dries announced the cancellation on Twitter. Just got the sad news that Batwoman will not be seeing a season 4. Okay.
And speaking of that, DC's Legend of Tomorrow also got canceled, but I think like the day after that. So yeah, and I believe I did see an article where they said that they added Donald Faison's Booster Gold character to basically try to get another season, to add some hype to get another season, and that seemed like it worked because it got canceled. I don't know what got outside of I don't know what you saw that got canceled today. But was it something comic book related, or was it like, what was it?
Bendis related DC.
Oh, Naomi got canceled? Huh. Well, that probably tracks. Although it was kind of funny because I did see a report that was like, well, because of this and because of Batwoman, that kind of lended itself for Naomi to possibly get another season. So right. I guess that's out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like I said, it wasn't a bad show, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it sucks that they only got 1 season.
Yeah. So.
Alrighty. Next up, the universe of the Suicide Squad may be growing some more. Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller in the film, and its predecessor, is in talks to reprise her role for a series project in the works at HBO Max. She was on Peacemaker. The show would spin off from the streamer's Peacemaker, obviously, which I just said, and it features a couple of brief appearances from Davis's Waller. Let's see. So plot details are being kept secret, but sources say the potential series would build on Davis's appearance in the Peacemaker series finale, and would probably play with Danielle Brooks's character in the series, Leota Adebayo, who is Waller's daughter.
Right. Makes sense. Sure. After especially what happened at the end of Peacemaker. DC's Blue Beetle film logo gives off distinct 90s vibe. So I guess, wait, was it taken off of Instagram? But basically, somebody had shown the logo, shared the logo on Instagram. The photo featured the logo and was on the back of a chair. The words of the title were there, but it's not linked to the article anymore, so I guess they might have taken it down. Don't know. Next up,
Warner Brothers Discovery has it's so weird to say that. Warner Brothers Discovery has reportedly canceled DC Films' live-action Wonder Twins movie. Didn't they just greenlight this? So according to that hashtag show, the crew was informed earlier this week that the live-action adaptation of the Wonder Twins has been scrapped before production even began. A reason for this decision was not provided, though the merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery has changed plans for several existing projects. Production was intended to start in Atlanta on July 5th.
So I have not come across any corroborating reports whether this was the case. And I forgot to go and look again because this is like 2 weeks old. So this is still, as far as I know, report and not necessarily, fact on fact.
Yeah, it still says, at least according to what I see here, all the news stories are a little on the older side.
Some of them. Well, I mean, we got
2 weeks
built
ago.
up. Yeah. Got to build up.
And all of them seem to say reportedly, so.
Yeah. But usually I try to if I find something that kind of confirms it one way, then I try to update it before we talk about it. Edu, Jon Stewart gets his own movie, Green Lantern, Beware My Power. I saw this trailer, it was pretty good, and I can't wait to see this. The trailer is out there. Obviously, it's animated. I shouldn't say obviously, but it is what it is. But it's out there on YouTube and whatnot. You should check it out if you haven't checked it out already.
I have not. That's interesting.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
What's the animation style? Is it Japanese? Different than?
No, it's DC. Still DC stuff. It's like the kind of later DC stuff.
Oh, okay. Not Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, but more the recent DC stuff.
Right. So they're kind of in that vein, but it's pretty good. I was gonna say Frontier, but it's not even that style either. But so yeah, definitely check it out when you get a chance. Next up.
Wow. Somehow, Aqua's Barbie Girl song will not appear in the Margot Robbie Barbie movie. Come on, Barbie, let's go party, is the immortal refrain from Aqua's 1997 song Barbie Girl. But when it comes to the upcoming Margot Robbie movie, Aqua has not been invited to join the fun. Despite fans insisting that the Europop banger, that's debatable, which has clocked up over 1 billion views on YouTube, should appear in the soundtrack to the Mattel and Warner Brothers film, Variety understands there are no plans for that to happen. That's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I saw another article was like, nah, they don't want it in the movie because they're not sellouts. Which I stick to your guns. I respect it, but also, what is that movie if that song's not in it?
Seriously.
So I don't know. First John Wick 4 footage reunites the franchise's biggest stars, that being Lawrence Fishburne and Ian McShane. So according to Deadline, the preview, which debuted during Lionsgate CinemaCon panel, again, some of this is kind of old news, but hey, opens up with Reed's character training in a gym, and it goes on from there, leading to the Bowery King and the Winston popping up. Next.
Oh, I'm excited. It's a shame that we don't have a chance to look at this footage, but we're just going to have to wait for a trailer.
Yeah, the CinemaCon stuff doesn't. I say sometimes that stuff gets out there, but it rarely ever does. So, do CinemaCon. Anyway.
Yep. Alrighty, next up, Louis Leterrier is racing from the MCU to the Fast Saga. Leterrier, who directed The Incredible Hulk for Marvel Studios and the first 2 Transporter films, is set to replace Fast and Furious franchise filmmaker Justin Lin as the director of Fast 10. According to Variety, the French filmmaker beat out numerous candidates and was the first choice for Universal Pictures, who reportedly considered F. Gary Gray and David Leitch, previous directors of Fast and Furious installments, in their search said to cost $600,000 to $100 million per day, since Lin exited just days into production on the 10th chapter in the Fast and Furious saga.
Which, once again, leads credence to my theory that the Fast and Furious franchise and the Transporter are all in the same universe. Thank you very much. Good news for Doctor Who fans, the Whovians out there. We finally get a black Doctor Who, y'all. In the form.
Oh no! Isn't I heard something about this? Isn't it the first black male?
Well, black male. That is that is a good distinction. You are correct, because the Fugitive Doctor is
and I don't know anything about Doctor Who. I just happened to hear this.
Yeah, no. That's a great distinction. You're right. But also, So actor Ncuti Gatwa is playing the role of the Doctor in the show Doctor Who, coming up after Jodie Foster. He is known for the Netflix series Sex Education, which I've never seen, but I've seen things about, I guess. He's also amongst the youngest Doctors yet. So yeah, there you go. This was announced Sunday, and Twitter not necessarily went up in flame, but yeah, it was all a buzz there. So cool.
Alrighty, next up, it looks like we are in Anime Corner officially. So Spy X Family gets new makeovers from top manga artists. So Spy X Family is currently taking over thanks to the debut of its official anime, but at the same time, its manga has been doing better than ever as well. To celebrate, the series recently launched its first special fan book in Japan, and thanks to that, fans have been getting all sorts of new details about what went into Tatsuya Endo's creation of the series thus far. Not only that, but the franchise also got some love from some very important manga and anime artists and creators who are also just as big as fans of the series as everyone else. To celebrate, this fan book has a bunch of popular creators, including looks at takes from Attack on Titan's Hajime Isayama and Hell's Paradise Jikokuraku's Yuji Faku. Okay.
Easy for you to say.
Hey, I I'm familiar with Isayama. After that, I was a little lost.
Yeah. Spy Family's pretty good. You should check it out. If
I watched the first 3 episodes. I've got to complete my sign up for. I got to complete my sign up for Crunchyroll so I can watch the rest.
Okay, yeah, because it's only
4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it's only 4. The next one, the next one will be out Saturday. I forgot. So yeah, I need to actually watch that. One Piece unveils a new look at its newest character. The new image was revealed by the series' official Twitter account and provides a look at the young Yuta, the new character who was recently revealed to be the estranged daughter of the red-haired Shanks. Yes, the powerful pirate captain who gave Luffy the straw hat that he wears. And this is from the One Piece film Red, not to be confused with Red of the DC thing, that will premiere in Japanese on August 5th, and will probably be on bootleg August 7th.
Or not.
You know. Yeah,
or not. I still haven't been able to see the My Hero Academia Heroes World Mission or World Heroes Mission yet.
I feel like I've seen that out there, but I don't know if there's an actual thing. I have seen it listed, but I don't know if I've actually seen it. You've looked. Okay, yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Next up.
those are not real listings, to put it that way.
Yeah.
Next up.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Super promo brings Piccolo's voice actor to the theater. Piccolo first hit the blah, 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 blah. So Piccolo is set to receive a new transformation in Dragon Ball Superhero set to arrive this June in the fight against the Red Ribbon Army. And the voice actor behind the greenest member of the heroes, created by Akira Toriyama, released a new promo in celebration of Greener Day. So Twitter user DBS Hype shared this latest promo that sees Toshio Furukawa celebrating Greenery Day, with Piccolo, of course, being the greenest member of the Z Fighters, though his skin is about to take on a different hue when Dragon Ball Superhero arrives this June. Okay.
And he's also black. Piccolo is.
Just like Panthro.
Exactly. And he's best dad. At least in that world. I'm looking at real quick aside. I'm looking at this story on the side that says Demon Slayer fans go to war over the question Rengoku or Tengen. I'm sitting here like, who's doing this? Exactly, who's doing this?
Why?
I'm going to.
Is it just because you're waiting for more anime? Because the manga's done. Yeah. So it must be because they're waiting for more anime.
I'm guessing so. I don't know. Well, yeah, exactly. That next arc of that anime hadn't hit yet, and it's going to be a good while. So yeah, I don't know. I'm checking out that article just for giggles. Anyway, Full Metal Alchemist creator draws art for an upcoming sequel. I
was about to say, pause this for a second.
Okay.
I was just looking at my list of anime to watch because I just got up to date on Fire Force,
Oh, okay.
right? And I have watched and rewatched Haikyuu because I love Haikyuu,
Yes, you do.
right? A bunch of times already. It's just fun, right? It sucks that there's no dub, so I can't compare the dub and the sub. But you know, I've rewatched it a couple times already, and forget a few times. Okay, several times. I have Full Metal Alchemist on my list, and I think that's probably going to be where I go. Should I go to Brotherhood and skip the original?
Personally, I would say do the original first and then go to Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is more directly tied, more closer to the manga.
Right.
Again, this is just me saying this. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would say just skip and go to Brotherhood.
Because you're getting like a more pure adaptation.
Yeah. And like I said, the original one, yeah, kind of went off the track.
Okay.
Not story wise. Well, I guess some would probably say story wise, but not really story wise. But just because it wasn't, tied enough to the manga, because I think it would, they had to do some filler stuff and whatnot. So,
got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's only like 52 episodes for probably both. I can't remember, but for the first one. So
yeah, it's like 50, 52, something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not losing that much. Then you can, from what I remember, you can tell fairly quickly if you do happen to go to Brotherhoods where it kind of departs.
Okay. All right, carry on.
What was that? Oh yeah. So Full Metal Alchemist, the creator Hiromu Arakawa, it's late, folks. That's what I'm blaming it. Has offered new artwork which imagines a hilarious behind the scenes of the main characters of the series. While Arakawa has moved on from the franchise following its conclusion, the mangaka isn't shy about returning to the series to celebrate some big occasions. So apparently, he started work on a new manga series in the form of Sugai of the World. There's new artwork from him in the meantime that sees like of Edward Elric, Alphonse Elric, Scar, and several other heroes and villains of the series taking the opportunity to break from the filming process of the new Full Metal Alchemist movie, dropping into theaters later this month. And you can see samples of the artwork in the show notes. Next.
All right, so JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What will JoJo Lands turn out to be? So, okay, with creator Hirohiko Araki already confirming that he is set to return for the 9th part of the franchise, tentatively titled JoJo Lands. It's apparently a good time to, this article is a good time to look at the JoStars past and present to get a better idea of where the anime series might be headed in the future. So this is an article that provides a lot of background. So if you're looking to get some idea of what's going on with the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, someone like me who has no idea what's going on other than the fact that these are brawny dudes apparently, take a look at this article.
And one woman, but yeah, this article is not gonna help you try to understand what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is.
Okay,
I can pretty safely say that. Common Writers Futo Pai, was that Futo Pai? Yes, anime sets a number of episodes, so there's going to be a Common Writer anime, the first one specifically, and it's going to be 12 episodes in total, and it's going to air August 1st in Japan. No word is series launched this summer. No word is when it's going to come over here to the States, looks like. So look forward to that if you're a Kamen Rider fan. Next.
All right, Trigun, Sunny Boy, and more Funimation exclusives are heading to Crunchyroll. We were just talking about this before. It's time to me. I'd kind of put it off. It's already the middle of May. I wanted to do it the beginning of May to switch over to Crunchyroll. Now we're already in the middle of May. I still haven't done it. A new wave of Funimation titles are headed to Crunchyroll, including classics like Trigun and Space Dandy, as well as newer hits such as Sunny Boy. So, this is all part of that merger between Crunchyroll and Funimation. Despite the fact that Funimation is the purchasing company, Crunchyroll has a bigger library and has a more well-settled foundation in the anime world, I think. So that's why everything's being merged under the Crunchyroll umbrella and banner.
Yeah, Crunchyroll, in my opinion, Crunchyroll has a better name, bigger name. Like people know Crunchyroll at this point. Like, yes, they know Funimation from the production side, but
right. And Funimation being the exclusive provider of some anime like Dragon Ball.
Right.
That's really that obviously that was the reason I've spoken about this before on the show. That was the reason why I chose to subscribe to Funimation initially, because I wanted to be able to watch all of Dragon Ball all the way through.
Mm-hmm. And he has successfully done that. Trigun's actually pretty good, I dare say.
I think it's on my list.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And there's even a movie, but Trigun's good. Anyway, My Hero Academia gets original 2-episode anime this summer. This year's 23rd issue of Shueisha's weekly Shonen Jump magazine revealed that the My Hero Academia anime will get a 2-episode special that will first screen in theaters in Japan on June 16th through 19th before streaming online this summer. Apparently one of the episodes will have an original story centering on baseball-loving pro heroes who formed the Hero League Baseball. The 6 seasons coming this fall, and there's no details about the second episode. So yeah, more My Hero stuff for you My Hero fans before the next season. Next,
you should watch it. The manga is about to wrap up. It's
yeah,
in the
I'm
end
definitely
game.
gonna get to it. Yeah.
The manga is definitely in the end game now. I'm keeping up with it. I've read the entire manga.
Nice.
I can definitely say that I am keeping up with it as it's coming out. It's not coming out as regularly as I would like.
Right.
But they are coming out. So, we'll see how when this finishes in the upcoming months.
Okay.
All right, so we're transitioning over to the comic book news, but still being in the manga section.
Mm-hmm.
So Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Spy X Family made this month's New York Times bestsellers list. The 3 popular series, all of which come from Shonen Jump publisher Shueisha, earned spots within the New York Times listing of the top 10 best-selling graphic novels and manga for the past month. All right, that's cool.
Yeah. Marvel, and then we get into comic book news proper. Marvel's Spider-Man 2099 event kicks off with an earth-shattering threat. So yeah, Marvel Comics provided CBR with an exclusive preview of Marvel. Actually, I think this is out this week, isn't it? I believe it is. Or was it last week? One of the two.
It was last week.
Yeah.
I think it was last week.
Yeah.
I skimmed it, but I didn't read it, so I didn't feel it was fair to talk about it.
Yeah, I didn't honestly care. But there's a preview for it. If you may or may not be interested in it, there's a preview in if you haven't read it by now, in the show notes. Next.
Marvel and Dan Slott announce plans to, quote, end the Spider-Verse. So writer Dan Slott is returning to the Spider-Man office for Edge of Spider-Verse, a 5-issue miniseries debuting in August that will bring the Spider-Verse saga to a cataclysmic conclusion later this year in The End of Spider-Verse. Okay. Slott will team with a team of writers and artists on Edge of Spider-Verse, introducing all new versions of the web-slinger from across the Spider-Verse. So I'm a fan of the Spider-Verse comic book stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be looking forward to this. I know a lot of people don't like Slott, but I don't mind his writing. I thought he was a little overextended on Spidey. He just stayed on for too long. But, his FF has been fun, and hopefully this time off has given him a chance to recharge on Spidey.
Yeah. Yeah, Slott said, I started the Spider-Verse, I'm going to end it.
Yeah, for real.
Actually, this is probably spoilers for something you talked about, but this is from Punisher #2. Punisher's new wars pits him up against a massively powerful ex-Avenger, that being Ares,
Yep.
the god of war.
Yep. I definitely talked about it, and I tried not to spoil it, but that was last week's book, right?
That was like 2
Oh no,
weeks ago.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, you can spoil. It's fine.
So at this point, yeah, that's what I was like. It's
Yeah.
safe. Yeah, that's that. You should still go check it out if you're interested. Next up,
Yeah, it's not, the new Punisher series by Jason Aaron is not bad. It's definitely different. So,
oh wow,
all right, next.
that is right. I forgot he's back on Punisher because he's done it. This is not his first Punisher run.
Right. Marvel's Star Wars gives Obi-Wan a new spoiler alert.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier.
Right. Exactly. I was gonna say Roddykat mentioned this earlier. So just to go back to what Roddykat mentioned previously.
Mm-hmm. Marvel's Protectors of Wakanda reveals the origins of the Black Panther's Dora Milaje. Dora Milaje. I always do that. Don't mind me, it's late. So yeah, Karama Horn's history of the Dora Milaje is also a guide through Wakanda's past. Apparently she's making some new canon dealing with the history of the Dora in this book, and this article kind of talks about that. I'm looking forward to this book. That's all I'm gonna say. And I believe it's on pre-order now, to come out September 13th. Check it. Next.
Honestly, it's funny that we even expected this show to not go this long because there's just so much for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Not book wise, but obviously MCU wise.
Yeah,
so.
to be fair, we did kind of we hit Doctor Strange for a minute.
Well, there was a lot to talk about because there's a lot to that movie.
Yeah.
This story is Hasbro releases a new collection of Black Panther legacy items, and there are more legacy items to arrive this summer. So, celebrating the honor and stories of Marvel Studios' Black Panther, Hasbro is releasing a brand new collection of figures and toys featuring familiar characters out of Wakanda. So, we talked a little bit about this previously. We talked about the Marvel Legends wave that was coming out that unfortunately does lack Okoye, but does include one box, sold as one piece M'Baku, where previously he was a Build-A-Figure, with a new re-release of Black Panther, Killmonger in the Black Panther suit, Nakia, and Shuri. We also get some cool other toys like the Panther claws, a Panther mask, and some of the and some more stuff. So it's cool that they are re-releasing this for as a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because they just had extra of these.
Yeah, I don't know. So I didn't tell you, Agent 70, that I did talk about figure lists. So you know where I'm going with this. But as I was cleaning up my office, I found a bunch of my my legends and my pops, and I found that set.
Nice.
I found that set, and I found a couple of other sets. I was like, damn, I forgot I bought this set, this whole wave.
Wait, so you have the M'Baku wave?
Yes.
With Namor and
yep.
No, Namor wasn't that wave. Namor Koye wave.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found that one. I found my Hulkbuster wave. There was a couple of. I was like, I forgot that I even had these. And of course, they're all cataloged now. Yeah, and so they're all boxed up until I can finish cleaning up this room.
Yeah, but so they were moved from one location to another.
But yeah, they're still in this room. They're just in a box proper.
There you go.
Yeah. Because I was gonna, because I was like, I took some pictures of a couple of stuff. I was like, I can't believe I found some of this stuff. I didn't even know I had half of this stuff. It was crazy. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. Next up. Shop Captain America Symbol of Truth apparel, accessories, and more. So apparently, in line with Sam's book this week, it's got some merch that is on sale at Amazon now. It's a pillow, it's a sweatshirt, and some other stuff. A tote bag, some iPhone cases, or excuse me, phone cases. Doesn't necessarily have to be iPhone, but probably is. But yeah, stuff like that. Looks like a tote bag and a hoodie. There's a pop socket, some other stuff that's out there
Oh, it's straight off of the cover for issue number 1. Okay.
Sure is. So yeah, you can get that out there for you to get if you're so inclined. Next.
Okay, in something that I never thought anyone would actually ask for, Spider-Man No Way Home's Electro, that is Jamie Foxx's makeover Electro, zaps into Hot Toys. So really, this is a figure that stands approximately 11.41 inches tall and features over 30 points of articulation. This is, of course, a Hot Toys toy. It is expensive, and you can pre-order the Electro Hot Toys figure for $285.
That's crazy. And if you're watching the video version, you can see the figure with all the accoutrements. So yeah, Hasbro goes all in. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and take this one and the next one too, because they're pretty much related. So short straw, May 4th have happened. Star Wars Day happened. Hasbro pretty much announced a whole bunch of stuff, including a bunch of new figures and some other merch. And this article and the next article pretty much recounts all of that stuff, including some retro figures that, man, I saw this box. I was like, I had a couple of those figures because I think I had Luke, Han, and Chewie, I think. So they're bringing that back, and then there's Princess Leia from Return of the Jedi. There's the forgive me for this if you have younger folks, earmuffs. The Jizz crew. The musicians that are now having figures. See, the Stormtroopers, the Clone Troopers. There's a young Lando, the Donald Glover Lando. He's got a figure now. There's a Darth Vader head and Force Effects lightsaber for Obi-Wan Kenobi, since that's coming out. And then the next article kind of goes into some other stuff, including the lightsaber. Looks like a Lego Star Wars TIE Fighter kit, and some other stuff that I won't necessarily go into. And I think Luminara Unduli's Legacy lightsaber and Asajj Ventress' lightsaber, both at Galaxy's Edge. So yeah, merch stuff. Next up.
Razer announces Star Wars themed Xbox Series X controller, a charging station for Star Wars Day. So it's a pre-release for its limited edition custom Stormtrooper controller for Xbox, just in time for May the 4th. So it features a custom design based on the iconic Stormtrooper armor. Okay. Let's see. Price.
A lot.
I don't see it.
More than likely, it's probably going to be like an upwards.
It's $199.
Yeah, I would say
$199.99.
I was close.
Because of the custom nature of the piece, its limited edition status, and blah blah blah. Yakety schmackety, and it's officially licensed.
Right, and it's Razer because they're not cheap. Meet the Lego Puppets minifigures. So yeah, you would think this is a thing that was already out there, but apparently, there are minifigs for Lego for Muppets. Now it's got Kermit, Miss Piggy, and a couple of other folks. My boy Rolf, I believe is one of them. There's Fozzie, Gonzo. Yep, that's my boy Rolf. The Swedish Chef. Professor. What's the professor's name? I don't know. Beaker. Who cares? Beaker is the dude. But yeah.
That sucks that they're in blind bags, but I guess you gotta stand there and feel them out. That's what this article advises that you do.
Yeah, that's kind of sucks. Professor Honeydew, that's the dude's name. But yeah, that's the part that kind of sucks about it. But hey, if you're into Muppets, you probably don't care because you probably trade them. You're gonna trade the ones you don't have for the ones, or ones you do have for the ones you don't have.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I never came up as a big Lego kid because. I liked action figures. Yeah. I just didn't get, my parents just didn't. I didn't ask for Legos, so they didn't buy them for me.
Right.
And I bought Legos for like my younger relatives and nephews and nieces and whatnot. And they got they liked them, but then they kind of grew out of them. But I'm looking at these like, man, these are just kind of cool as standalones, which is why they're selling them that way.
Right. Oh yeah, they even got the band.
The Statler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
Statler
Well,
Waldorf
they're part of the band.
Yeah.
They've got Janice.
Oh yeah, they don't have Dr. Teeth. They just have Janice and Animal.
Yeah,
Weird.
they have Janice, Animal, and Rolf.
Well,
They have
well,
your chef.
Rolf was a sometime member.
Yeah, and Statler and Waldorf.
Mhm. So yeah,
But that's cool. Those are such cool characters. Oh my gosh, I
know.
feel like that would be like my one reason to go to the Lego store and just pick up these.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
I know. Like I saw this, I was like, you wouldn't. It's hit or miss whether you would like whether people would like something like this. But it's the Muppets is like who doesn't like this? Next
Oh
up.
my gosh,
Next up.
that's cool.
Mhm.
All right, so I got next.
Yeah.
Gotham Knights will no longer be released for PS4 and Xbox One. When the game was first revealed in 2020, it was set to include PS4 and Xbox One versions, but those have seemingly been canceled ahead of release. So an announcement about a new gameplay trailer, publisher Warner Brothers Interactive included a very short note about the last-gen versions of the game no longer being released. No specific reasoning was given other than to say that it would provide players with the best possible gameplay experience. Okay. The game is set to arrive on October 25th. For PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC via Steam and Epic Game Store only.
That's usually a reason to give. That's not usually the reason to give. It's just as well because we're far enough into the current current console cycle to where you don't necessarily have to do that anymore. At a certain point, they stop doing previous version consoles. I mean, stuff or stuff.
Yeah, there's just like you said, there's just a point in
Right.
time where they just stop.
Yeah. So I think they probably hit this, but plus it puts more on them to have to split. So it's just well. Anyway, Batman podcast just surpassed Joe Rogan to hit #1 on Spotify. So Batman Unburied is a brand new podcast from David S. Goyer. It is the #1 podcast on Spotify as of this article, which was on May 8th in the U.S. and other countries. The first 2 episodes were released on May 3rd, and Spotify's the podcast charts revealed that it now sits on top of that it then sat on top the top spot and has surpassed that other person's stuff and some other podcasts. So yeah, there you go. Next.
All right, Action Comics is about to blow fans' minds with an unexpected DC character's return. I mean, hyperbole much? So, in an exclusive interview with CBR, writer Philip Kennedy Johnson hinted at the reappearance of a face familiar to DC fans in Action Comics. The tease is that we're going to see the return of a fan favorite DC character that you do not expect to see in this, but it's going to be a very different take on the character, one that is definitely going to get a reaction out of readers. Okay,
Mitzoplex. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
We'll see.
Sad news corner here, folks. Neil Adams, comic book artist who revitalized Batman and fought for creators' rights, died at the age of 80, pardon me. He died last Thursday. Oh wait, actually, excuse me. This was on April 29th. Wait. Weird. Anyway, he died on a Thursday in New York of complications from sepsis, according to his wife. But yeah, Neil Adams was. I think I remember seeing some of his old Batman stuff from back in the day, because between my cousin and my brother, I think they were into Batman at the time, so I definitely was exposed to some of his work. And of course, people on Twitter were talking about it, talking about his death.
Yeah, I mean, I had only really seen his art in reprint because he had a short run on Uncanny X-Men.
Okay.
With the original 5.
Right.
Before they started going into reprints, and obviously he was the penciler behind. He drew the cover. I think he drew the issue where with the first appearance of Havoc.
Okay.
So I remember reading some of that stuff and recognizing his art, but obviously he's most well known for revitalizing the Batman. But a lot of that stuff happened before our time.
Right.
You know, Roddykat and I both like to joke, about.
I'm a bit too old for this shit.
But we're not old enough to really have come up during Neil Adams's like heyday.
I mean, what was that like 70s, like late 70s, early or
No, earlier.
was it
Earlier.
Okay.
Earlier.
Okay.
It's like early 70s, early to mid 70s. Like,
Okay.
we were just born basically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Next up.
And next up, and I'm glad that this story came to me. And what's funny about this, what we just talked about, is in George Perez's art was first published in Marvel in 1975. I don't think I'd been born yet.
I
Right?
was, but I was not. Yeah, I was
Right.
too.
That's my point.
Right.
That's why that's part of what I was getting at is that's how long ago George Perez was actually working in comics, and Neil Adams was his predecessor.
Right.
So that's why we're not as familiar with Neil Adams's work. Obviously, they're in the age of reprints and DC Universe and Marvel Unlimited. We can go back and read it.
Right.
But George Perez, I tweeted about this. I've been posting about this on Instagram. We knew it was coming because he announced that he was not seeking treatment for his pancreatic cancer back in December. So we've been talking about this kind of chance to give George his flowers. Unfortunately, the shorter end of his timeline of his prognosis came to fruition. George Perez, comic book artist icon, passed away at the age of 67 at the end of last week. And it was due to complications from his pancreatic cancer. So I'm a gigantic fan of George Perez. I'm going to drop my virtual background, and for anyone who is on the video right now, you will see that I actually have, I'm going to turn on an extra light here so they can get some illumination on this. I have a Perez poster in my background, and that is an image of the Fantastic Four that he drew. And it's pretty cool. I'm glad that it's up. I actually kept it up in his honor. And now that he's passed away, I'll probably keep it up for a little while longer before I rotate it out. I've also talked about my fandom of Perez since the early days. I definitely did not catch his Avengers stuff coming up because, like I said, he started in the mid to late 70s. Right. I only picked up a couple of those Avengers issues as he was transitioning over to work at DC. These are like the Red Ronin issues, the Jarvis on the cover, where Jarvis is taking over. That is Perez right there. And I remember being in grade school, like kindergarten, first, second grade, along those lines, where I had seen advertisements for the New Teen Titans, and I was getting issues of the New Teen Titans, and I was in love with that book. And I was way too young to be reading some of those stories. Right. But, like the Runaway story, how am I going to understand that as a 6 or 7 year old? Right. But I love the art. And the story was a little over my head, but I love the art, and that was all Perez. And I understood the gist of the story because of his incredible storytelling capabilities. So obviously he's had additional stuff that laid the foundation for a lot of the stuff that we in comics fandom appreciate now, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, like his revitalization of Wonder Woman, and of course, even though he didn't draw the whole thing, in the Infinity Gauntlet series. So and I like to joke with Roddykat about this. He really should read Hulk Future Imperfect. It's a great book. Obviously his pièce de résistance, the coup de grace on his career was JLA Avengers, which I'm holding up right now. This is the slipcover edition. I was fortunate enough to get to have the scratch at the time to buy this, and I had George sign this over 2 separate signings. He actually signed the slipcover case in a couple of places. Here's one, and here's the other in the top corner. Right, you can see his signature right there.
Mhm.
And I actually had him sign, and Tom Smith, the colorist, also signed the main reprint of the JLA Avengers series here. And George also signed this reprinting of the 20 some odd pages that he drew for the original JLA Avengers attempt back in the 80s. That was aborted, unfortunately, because Marvel and DC couldn't get along. So, you know, my bona fides as a fan of Perez should not be questioned, but you know, I can't say enough. I cannot say enough that he was a titan in the world of comic books. Was one of the founding founding members of like my personal artists, you know, Mount Rushmore.
Mhm.
And you know, it was something that still hit me hard as a fan, even though I knew it was coming. And it sucks that it wasn't, you know, that the prognosis was so accurate that
Right.
he literally had 6 months to live, because we're going to presume that when he announced this in early December, he had maybe heard of it, heard the announcement maybe like a week or two before. So it was almost 6 months on the dot.
Right.
So it was it's very tough when doctors and science get things so close on the money. And you know, he literally passed away 6 months into his, you know, into his knowing.
Mhm.
So you know, it's very sad. It's a very sad time. You know, we lost Neil Adams, you know, a week before, and you know, I think Neil Adams passed away at like the day after we recorded our last show, and then we went on Movie Protocol, and then George Perez passed away. So that, I think, is the sequence here. So you know, it's a sad time as fans of comic books and comic book lore, to see these two titans of creativity pass away so close to each other. One was a little older, and one obviously, you know, passed away a little at an earlier age. You know, unfortunately, at a younger age. You know, with so much vitality left in him because of cancer.
Mhm.
So you know, we give our respect, we pay our respects and our sincerest condolences to the Adams and the Perez family on their profound loss. And it's a profound loss for the comic book community and for us here on the Comic Book Chronicles.
Indeed, indeed. Kind of weird trying to transition from that, but we will try. In DC's re-releasing George Perez's tribute art as a Dark Crisis finale variant. This actually came out before, well, this article came out actually before the news of his death came out. So
yeah, because because the publishers were not rushing, but they were trying to get their tributes in. Right. You know, if you recall, a few weeks back, Marvel republished some Perez art that he had done for Avengers Disassembled or Avengers Finale, and they had taken the word balloons out, so that it would be Perez's art toasting him as an Avenger. You know, once an Avenger, always an Avenger. If you recall,
was it for Finale or Forever?
No, it was an Avengers Finale.
Okay.
But they had it published in the Avengers book that came out like 2-3 weeks ago.
Right.
And
yeah, because we talked about it.
Yeah, I think it was like all over Marvel. I think that, so you know, it was nice that George had a chance to see that.
Right.
And I think George did have a chance to see this this tribute art. You know, he didn't get to see it published, but he did get a chance to see it.
Right. So to which, if you're watching the video version, you can see the image right there.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a nice jam piece.
Mm-hmm. As he is was very good at doing.
Definitely.
Some damn good splash pages.
Yep. Alrighty, next up. So DC has revealed an updated multiverse origin story in its first Dark Crisis release. So a short story in Dark Crisis Special Edition number 0 connects events stretching from 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths to Death of the Justice League number 75. So this is from the Free Comic Book Day book. Did you get your Free Comic Book Day books?
No, because I didn't get out to. I totally forgot it was Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, we did remind you, but you know what's funny is that they ran out in my shop, my most local shop. They ran out of the Judgment Day one, the Avengers, Eternals, X-Men one. I did get the Spidey one. I got the DC one.
I'm not
but they
surprised
ran
about
out
that.
of the Judgment Day one because that's the one that has the first appearance of Blade's daughter.
Right.
So that's the one that the comic book aficionados went after.
Mm-hmm. Because Judgment Day. But yeah, I hate it because like I said, I totally blanked on the fact that it was for Comic Book Day until like until later in the day after the stores was closed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bottom line is, the first page of this Free Comic Book Day book pays homage to Perez's work. And where did I put my Free Comic Book Day books? Oh no, I think they're still downstairs. But yeah, it's a nice little tribute.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go into how all this is supposed to be connected.
Yes. Speaking of connections, Frank Miller is launching his own comic books company and bringing back Sin City. So Frank Miller and former DC head Dan DiDio are teaming up on a new company called Frank Miller Presents. With DiDio serving as publisher and Miller pulling double duty as both creator and curator of comics that fits the style and mold he's well known for. In a statement, Miller stated that his new venture, which he said to have been quietly building for months, will be a fertile ground for storytellers and new creations. And it goes on from there. So yeah. It says here, if you're thinking that FWP may lead to some reprints of his back catalog under his banner, no such luck. His previous work will remain at their respective publishers, not surprisingly. Also, there was a Teen Titans Go cameo for George Perez that I've never seen, but that's cool. Next,
yeah, I saw clips of them.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw the actual episodes that they were in, but that's cool.
Yeah, neither did I. I think I saw a still of it. So,
yep. All right. Archie Comics introduces its first biracial pansexual character, Eliza Hahn. Okay, so they're just trying to cram all the representation into one character. So
they've got a couple of characters.
Archie Comics is gearing up to introduce this character just in time for Pride Month. June's a one-shot. Archie and Friends Summer Love #1 will bring Eliza Hahn to Riverdale to spend time with Veronica's cousin, Harper. Eliza, a biracial pansexual teen with a remarkable backstory as the brains behind a major corporation, will not only bring some diversity to the town, but also a little drama as her relationship with Harper will get in the way of Reggie restarting his romance with the Lodge cousin. Okay.
Okay, sure. Damn.
Reggie will also be revealed as bisexual in the story from writer T. Franklin and artist Dan Parent. Really?
Sure, I can see that.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. It's Reggie after all. Last but not least, IDW announces executive editorial director and expands editorial staff. So let's see. IDW, the renowned publisher of comic books and graphic novels, announces, this is a press release that I'm reading for if that wasn't apparent, announces today that they've bolstered their editorial staff with 3 new hires, onboarding Jamie S. Rich as executive editorial director and Charles Beecham and Russ Busey as senior editors. Then it goes on to talk about these folks, the yadas and the yadas and the yadas. So good on them. They got jobs, or they got ups in jobs, I guess.
Yep.
So cool. And that's it, folks. That's the news.
Yep. And now we have our last ad read of the night. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today.
And here we are at the end of this here Comic Book Chronicles. Sorry for it's a long, late one, but we had a lot to talk about. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Does Need on Twitter. You can find me at TBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. PopCultureNet on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and his umbrella sites therein. Tim DOGG98, the Osiris that is Ish. You can find him at CB Cron on Twitter. You can find him at the Kliq Nation on Twitter. You can find him at right in his face. Well, yes, at thekliqnation.com, excuse me, and over at comicbook.com where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You find us a recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Unless we go on Movie Protocol, which will happen again probably in the next month or two. On the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/TheKliqNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and give us all the good reviews. 5 stars.
And with that, folks, we're out of here. We'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next week. I don't think we have anything Disney related or anything.
Not until the end of the month.
Yeah, so we got a little briefer until Obi-Wan comes out. So until next week, this has been Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. 1.
I love it when a plan comes together.